Jeremiah Love breaks free. Jeremiah Love trying to go 98. Touchdown! What a run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Ezio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Dig deep. Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
So much to get to, and we start with that right now. Good afternoon, 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak with me, as we always are, most every day, although there's some conflicts along the way. Garrett Ross running the mothership. He's been here since early today. He and I had a chance to visit with former Texas and Hall of Fame head coach Mack Brown. We'll have that today at 4, and Andrew Valade with us also here on 365 Sports. So we'll have Ari Temkin, Mack Brown, Craig's Off the Radar, John McClain. We're going to look deeper at the AP Top 25, which we didn't have time to do yesterday, and, of course, Top 5, graphics, polls, quizzes, and the wheel. So here, this note came down a little bit earlier. Pete Thamel saying that John Mateer trending, pushing to return for, again, the game against Texas on Saturday afternoon in the Cotton Bowl. The belief is his return is possible. I'm not so sure about that either way, whatever he and the Oklahoma staff decide to do. But Brent Venables a little bit later on in the morning saying that he has not had, at least up until then, any good reps this week. And, of course, it's just Tuesday, so that might not be something that's a concern. But it obviously makes a difference. Look at that cast on his right hand, the brace, so I don't know. But it would make a difference. I haven't seen Vegas change much since that announcement this morning, or the report this morning.
I don't think he's going to play. I think this is maybe more gamesmanship and all that, just to push them to have to watch more film on Mateer, which they were probably going to do anyway. But it would be amazing if he did. I hope he does, but I wouldn't be counting on it, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not banking on him playing in this game. Just kind of set myself up to believe that it'll be Michael Hawkins and that Mateer is going to need a little bit more time. But I would not expect Oklahoma to go and just put that out there. Why would you do that? Why not play some games with your opponent if you are able to do so? So, if there's a slight chance that Mateer may be able to play, then let that be out there, and even encourage some discussion about it. And I've seen a lot of people kind of like eye roll and are like, well, of course he's not going to play. It's like, all right, then don't prepare for him then. Simple. They don't act like he's going to play. But, like, in the meantime, Oklahoma doesn't have to tip its hand. So I think that just is part of the game. And, again, I'm not anticipating that he'll play. It seems like and as no doctor, I won't try to, put the doctor cap on like we do on the internet all the time and our expert opinions and whatnot. But I know that it wasn't a super invasive surgery and it wasn't a long recovery timetable. But I just worry about the risk that you take in coming back too soon. And then you take one hit on that hand, and then what? You need another surgery, and then you're out for another 3 weeks. And so that's where the risk would outweigh the reward of having him play if there's any doubt whatsoever about his health. So, I'm looking forward to the game this weekend. I'd really be looking forward to it if Mateer was cleared and healthy and ready to play, but I guess we'll have to wait till Saturday. And not like Oklahoma or other teams don't do things like this. As I saw many people pointing out, they had Dylan Gabriel after concussion out there warming up a couple of years ago, and he clearly wasn't going to be able to play, but that didn't stop them from having him out there in pregame just to make Texas go, wait a second. So I think that's more of the same here with this story, but would love to see him play just from a college football fan standpoint of I want the best players to play. I don't want OU Texas to be backup quarterback versus Arch Manning. I want Mateer versus Arch because it's probably going to be the only time we get it. I mean, this will be the one shot unless they find their way to the conference title game, and that doesn't look like it's probably going to happen at this point. So
it does make for interesting early in the week.
Yeah,
and again, there's no question. Could be just someone had to report. Thamel's pretty good. Murphy, Thamel, Feldman, guys like that. When they report things, it's usually money. So,
yeah, I mean, I would say there's also guys that are very much told what to put out there, especially in the NFL circles. I mean, Adam Schefter is the biggest shill on earth, basically, at this point. Tom Pelissero is not far behind after a tweet he had this weekend. So, I don't know. I think there's oftentimes, especially from the guys that you mentioned, with all due respect, that they are like, here you go, put this out there and encouraged to do so. So, yeah, Pete Thamel got that report. Guess what? Brent Venables was probably like, nod, wink, wink. Like, go ahead and get that out there Tuesday.
All he said is that he's pushing to play.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, well, most players, when they feel better, will say, I can go, coach, I can go. It is the coach's discretion, and then to make that, and the medical staff. And look, he said he's done zero good on good work. So two things are happening. Brent Venables or somebody said, look, he's pushing to play, but they didn't say he's going to play, but he's trying to. Okay. And then he said, well, he's done zero good on good work. So, if he shows up, it's going to be, a surprise performance in one regard or another.
Right. I don't think that Venables out there like really not like, hey, Pete, but I do think that's oftentimes how stories get out there that people want to be out there. And I think if you're Oklahoma, you want the uncertainty out there about John Mateer's status just to give a little bit of a wrinkle. So gamesmanship this week, as you'd expect with a big rivalry game and a big question mark like that out there. But I'd be, if I had to put a wager on it, I'd be planning on Michael Hawkins probably being the starting quarterback.
Here's the thing.
That's going to change my decision on who I pick.
Of course.
Yeah. No question.
Huge difference.
It's not that if Mateer plays, it obviously would change my pick compared to if Hawkins.
I think that's the people that are the most upset are the people wanting to bet on this game that don't know whether or not Mateer is going to play. I think they're as upset as anybody, or not as upset, but they're as curious as anybody because, that makes a massive difference in how you look at this game.
I'm leaning OU even right now without Mateer just because the front seven on defense did such a great job against Auburn, who has similar issues to Texas when it comes to protection, that I think that's right now the difference in the game. If Mateer doesn't play, like that to me is the distinct difference. Now, if Mateer plays, then I will not have doubts and I won't have a lean. I'll be fully, riding the Sooner schooner on that one.
Yeah. All right. So there we have that. Now some Big 12 coaches with some comments. Lance Leipold and KU, they'll play in Lubbock this week. Texas Tech, Joey McGuire with his weekly presser was trying to get the crowd. Throw your tortillas, get that out of the way, and then you need to come help and run and jump and scream and get focused on a number one defense and support us. So he's kind of sending a message through the media there. Lance Leipold, when asked about what Texas Tech has done with the transfer portal class and also their resources.
They've utilized their resources immensely. They've made a commitment. They're not shy about talking about it and what they've been able to do. And you can look at the two deep and you can see that they've gone everywhere and anywhere to get players, and that's a credit to them. And it's the gaps that are still there in this this new model we're working under, and obviously I think it's probably well known that they're well top of the league probably, and then there's the rest of us.
Is that any kind of mind games? Is that truth? It is, with what he said, based on what we've seen, being honest, or both?
I don't think there's really any mind games to be played here. I don't know what benefit he gets by saying that they have less money than Texas Tech. It's not like it rallies the troops at all. I suppose in the locker room, not that way, but in the locker room, you could tell your players that here's a bunch of overpaid dudes, or, you could like rally them and kind of give them a chip on their shoulder if you wanted to, I suppose. And I'm not sure if anybody's tried that yet, but maybe it's not a bad idea given the Tech's just kind of rolling through things right now of like, yeah, look, they're all it's like the rich private school kids versus like the kids from the downtown area. It's like the Mighty Ducks thing, right? Of like the club team versus like the city kids or something. Like maybe you could try to go with that strategy of like the foo-foo money guys or something. Whatever works, man. I think you got to try to find it, but I don't think that's really what he's doing. I think he's just almost sadly acknowledging the reality that they're in a much different bracket than everybody else in this conference for the most part, with the exception of maybe like BYU or something. And even then, they might be well past them. I don't keep that close tabs on exact numbers that are out there, but I think it's just it's a sad realization of like there's the way this game is played nowadays. It's not dictated as much by coaches or strategies or things like that nearly as much as it used to be, because those things still matter, but not as much as the talent. And the talent has always ruled college football. The coaches have had says here and there, but ultimately talent usually trumps everything. Yeah. And Tech has a clear talent advantage, I think, in a lot of the games they've played so far. And I think they're going to have a talent advantage in maybe every single game they play the rest of the way. And so I think that's just an acknowledgement of, yeah, they're really, really good. They've poured resources to make themselves really good. And they've got a really stiff challenge coming up this weekend.
A lot of other teams have spent money, right, but they didn't always spend it on the right players, and maybe the right players at certain positions. That's the one thing from what we can tell so far at 5-0 is that they not only just spent a ton of money, brought in a lot of players, but it seemed like they actually filled almost every need they needed going into the offseason.
Well, they zeroed in on evaluation and not just rankings. They really evaluated the people for what fit what they wanted to do with them. The other thing is that I don't think this compares to Mike Gundy popping off about Oregon,
which was overblown to begin with, dude. That was so overblown by Dan Lanning, but it worked for him, so whatever. But I hate the way that everybody latched on that wasn't a Ducks fan. Like, if you're a Ducks fan, I get it, but that was just like, that was so transparent what he was doing, and I felt like they way over modulated that whole conversation, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I do think that the difference, I think, was Mike Gundy's was more of like kind of a pop-up, like he wanted to like make a comment about it. He's complaining about it. Lance is not really complaining about it. He's just answering the question directly. I don't think, it wasn't like one of those things like, oh, look at what they're doing over there, and all that. He's just saying like, yeah, there's this and the rest of us right now. And that's not a message to Texas Tech. That's a message to Kansas. That's what that is. Yeah. It's like, hey, this is what they do. So.
Yeah, no, like Joey, we're not going to play that audio because it's a little bit lengthy, but about talking about the crowd and noise and stuff. Coaches do send messages through the media.
By the way,
Kansas State.
Go ahead. Anything else on Texas Tech? I was going to bring
actually, that was no, I don't.
I was going to bring up something from Saturday. Did y'all watch much of the Tech in? Okay. Yeah. Is Jacob Rodriguez's wife the new Catherine Webb or Sam Ellinger's mom, or are you with me on this?
Annoying as hell,
God!
Or the Shipley and McCoy
family.
Like
that whole thing. But like Catherine Webb, Sam Ellinger's mom, the Shipley McCoy story. But man, the TV camera is like in love with Jacob Rodriguez's wife, who's a military personnel, and so there's that story as well.
Like, she's a badass. She's a helicopter pilot. So usually when you meet a linebacker, like they're the badass of the family, right, and he's kind of the like, oh, cool, but like, but still, it's awesome. But we get it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like we got it. I think I'm glad Garrett also saw that, because I was sitting there watching on Saturday night, and I even cracked a joke about like at the half it's Kansas, said something along the lines of like, at the half, Kansas trails Jacob Rodriguez's wife 37-11, like in screen time. Houston, excuse me. Yeah, I'm just talking about Leipold. But Houston being outscored by TV shots of Jacob Rodriguez's wife 37-11, because it felt like in the first half they had shown her like every 10 seconds, and it didn't help if you were annoyed, and I wasn't annoyed by it, I just was observing this, and I was like, I think she's like the new shot to the crowd girl that we're going to see ad nauseum, because they're going to keep winning games. And so this is going to be like their little story they always go to the well for, especially being military related. Yeah. So
it's like every week someone doesn't know that story and they tell it again and again and again.
And again, it's not a
great story.
A complaint coming from me. It was just it was a thing that I noticed, and I was like, oh my gosh, here in a few weeks, we're going to be really annoyed by this, unless you're a Tech fan, and you're going to think it's great. But the reason why they were showing her so much was because he was making so many damn plays.
Yeah,
like, if he wasn't doing anything, they wouldn't show her, but he's out there like getting a turnover, and he's out there getting a sack. And so they went to the well a lot there in the first half. But yeah, that was just a leftover thing from the weekend. So she's the new celebrity.
I'll tell you that if for a Blackhawk pilot, she can
very cool
command that. Of course, respect more than anything else. But her husband is also a hell of a football player. But yeah, she's on TV a lot.
So here's what I do. When I'm doing stand-up and somebody goes on stage and talks about something similar to what I'm about to talk about, I just cross it off the list. I'll just go, well, I mean, they went up and like, it's not the same joke, but like, I don't want, like, you went up and talked about this thing. I don't want to talk about this thing. I'm just going to take it off the list. The bits are different, but I don't want people to be like, everybody's talking about this thing. So here's my tip to broadcasters. Like, once the first broadcast did it, you have to now. It's their thing. Mm-hmm. So if they get it back, so if that team does Texas Tech again, they can go on and continue to do the Jacob Rodriguez Weiss story. Everybody else has to do some more work.
Yeah, and here's what I used to think about the Shipley, McCoy, or others is that, and there's some stories, a lot of the stories about Ellinger and his parents, but was his father who passed away? Yes. But they're on TV every week, and a lot of those were big. Well, maybe a little bit of it. There are other players and parents and stories and boyfriends and girlfriends on those rosters that sometimes you wonder if they just are lazy and they use that story because they know it a little bit.
Yeah,
better.
But to be clear, before we just go too long on this, I just found it funny how much they went to the well. It's very cool story. He's a badass. I just assume that we're going to see way more of them moving forward because they're not going to be losing games. Yeah. So, and he's not going to stop making plays. So just get used to it if it's something that you took away like I did from Saturday.
So I put down notes next to spotter boards that I have for high school football, and once I use it, I cross it off.
So I thought that the McCoy Shipley thing reached critical mass in that A&M game that they played at the end of that year, because the more interesting story to me would have been that Jordan Shipley and Stephen McGee were best friends from high school and played for Bob Shipley, Jordan's dad.
Yep.
And it was like they missed that part. And I'm like, why don't you talk about the fact that the quarterback and the best offensive player over here for today only hate each other, but tomorrow morning they're going to go shoot ducks.
Yeah. Chris Kleiman. The continual part of, I thought Avery Johnson, there were a couple of bad mistakes in that game. He started well and almost finished well. But Chris Kleiman was asked about, again, in a press conference, about him and the offense and running the football more.
Avery played maybe his best game last week against Baylor. He was on point. I thought he threw the ball really well. Once again, take the one play aside where we don't pick up a pressure, and he wishes he had that play back. But I mean, he threw some strikes. He's running it when we need him to run it. But we're not going to give it to him 15 times a game in design run game. That's why we went to the two quarterback stuff. He's the best quarterback for a reason. We're not going to run him 15 times a game.
So there's Chris Kleiman, and things have not gone according to plan. They've got a lot of one-score losses, but that's kind of life in the Big 12 from year to year.
4 losses by 13 points. It's a weird spot to be in, and you're not that far away from being 4-2 or 5-1. And so I think there's that, but there's also, you're halfway through the season and you are 2-4, and now you've got to go 4-2 down the stretch. And there's not a guarantee that that's going to happen. So you're going from maybe looking at this season from a Big 12 championship contender point of view. And I know not everybody was on board with that, but widely accepted that Kansas State was one of the contenders in the preseason. And now you're looking at maybe not even making the postseason. So that's pretty jarring. And what is that? And like, I don't want to get too far down the road, but what does that lead to with the conversation about the team writ large? Like, does Avery Johnson go in the transfer portal? Because he's not ready for the NFL.
Yeah.
Or does he come back and just we run it back and we just make some tweaks here and there? Like, that's where we're starting to get, because now we're at the halfway point. So now it's like just as close to the end of the season as it is to the beginning of the season, especially if you're not guaranteed to play a 13th game, because they're not. So, the Avery running thing, the Sawyer running thing, it's a weird storyline in the league this year, where I don't know if this is an NIL thing, a pro football future thing, or if it's we just got to keep our guy healthy, because if he's not healthy, we're screwed type of thing, which I can understand that. If you're Sawyer Robertson and last year you really hurt and you couldn't play at your best and you're trying to avoid that, I understand not running. I also understand people saying, but we need you to. We need you to in some spots. So it's a weird situation, especially when you don't have all the details like we don't on what's this category and what's that category. But I thought Avery did play largely pretty well. I mean, that pick six was an absolute killer, obviously, but they still had a chance to go and win the game even after that.
He did not read the nope, not enough. Nobody did the pickup down near the goal line on third down, and he didn't pick it up, and neither did an offensive lineman or running back.
No. So that was a crucial error. But I will also say, while he did play relatively well, one pattern you may notice is that every quarterback plays well against the Baylor defense and has a career day this year. Yeah. I mean, basically everybody has had a pretty good showing offensively versus the Bears this season, as I can recall it, except for who was their throwaway game? Samford. Yeah, except for Samford, as you would expect.
Well, and even then, they were mad about the way they played against Samford.
Yeah, and they weren't even thrilled about that. But, Sawyer didn't have the best day that day. I think they probably kind of were sleepwalking after you'd played Auburn and SMU in back-to-back weeks. So you're suddenly playing Samford. So that's understandable to some degree. But, yeah, I would – my point is that it was encouraging to see Avery play a bit better, but I also would caution that it was also against the Baylor defense. So it doesn't guarantee that it's just going to translate. But it was a positive step more so than a negative step.
Yeah, Avery Johnson last year had 113 carries, 605 and 7 touchdowns. He has 47 carries, 209 and 3. He's running about the same amount. He has never really run much more than 8 to 10 or 7. Yeah. Had a few where he had 15 or 17, but very few. He's on pace to probably end up with about the same amount of carries, but he is lacking in the yardage. He has not had too many of those 60-yarders. Not that he had too many of those either.
He's not running off schedule a little bit. Like, that's some of the big plays are, it's broken down. He kind of, you've seen a couple times where he's kind of rolled out and stopped, and he could have run for it and didn't. And it doesn't look like he's playing totally free and loose and confident with that. But hearing, and just from a fan perspective of, you love watching college football. You want to see the most exciting and athletic things. It's like hearing, I'm going to go to an Elton John concert, and he's like, look, I'm not going to play Crocodile Rock every night. Mm-hmm. And you're like, could you, like, what? I wanted to hear that one, and I get it. Like, he's got a billion songs. He can't get them all in 4 hours or 3 hours, however long he's going to do. So he tells you that he wants to kind of, save some stuff, but it's still going to be disappointing to hear if you're a fan, because you're like, hey, I just want to turn the best athlete loose, and he's the best athlete on the offense.
Well, that's the debacle, is because you also want him to be healthy for the next 6 weeks, and if he takes a hit and he's knocked out, then what are you looking at? And so that's the damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of part of it. I think that's the deal with Sawyer Robertson is like, yeah, you'd want him to run more in certain situations, but what happens if he gets hurt? And I'm not asking the fans who want Aranda fired and like don't care no matter what happens moving forward. I'm talking about the fans who like actually want the team to do as well as it possibly can. You want them to win games however they can, but Sawyer's also the guy that's going to help you do that. So you don't want him out there getting hit like he did last year and then being 65% for the rest of the way. But anyways, that story continues on. Apparently it's like the 6th week in a row we're talking about these two guys not running as much. So nothing's changed in that regard. All that much.
Now let me ask you a question. Yes or no? No. Give me a number. What is Avery Johnson's longest run in his 3 years at K-State? Just guess.
Long, like 64 yards or something?
Paul?
I have no idea.
33.
Oh, God, way low.
I thought that for some reason, maybe back when he was a freshman, he had one of those 75-yarders, but no. His longest run, 33 yards, and he did that last week against Baylor.
Yeah, I would have lost that bet. I just threw something out there that obviously was double as much as he's actually done, but I feel like there should have been like a 50-yarder in there somewhere. So, yeah, that's a little bit surprising, but I guess I haven't also paid that much close attention to his long runs. So that's interesting.
Yeah, 33 was against Cincinnati, 30 last week against Baylor. Now, Kenny Dillingham starting that run where they have Utah this week, and they're underdogs according to Vegas in that game. Then they played Tech and then Iowa State. Asked about big moments, big players, what does he rely on when the game is on the line?
Best players. At the end of the day, when the game's on the line, I want Kobe shooting, Michael shooting, MJ shooting. I mean, I want those guys shooting the ball. I want, when the game's on the line, I want our big guys to have a chance, our best players to have a chance, even if it's not the best football play. I like to say to our staff all the time, right? I don't want to win the game as a coach. I want the players to win the game.
I'm sorry. There's Kenny Dillingham with the comment about, you want to put the ball in the hands of the players or a quarterback that you know is going to make a play. As they now try to, and that game with Utah, they're underdogs in that game in Salt Lake City. Cincinnati's Brendan Sorsby with a nice win against Iowa State for sure, 38-30. The Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award Player of the Week, 214 yards passing, a couple of scores, 64 yards rushing, and a touchdown. It wasn't like he had the best stats game among all the nominees, but a critical win and a very impressive win for Cincinnati as they are trying to get themselves into a run towards at least being a part of the top half of the Big 12, which they are right now.
A lot of that damage was done in the first half, and then it was Iowa State making the big, compelling comeback there to make things sort of interesting, but just blown away by how Cincinnati came storming out of the gates in a game that you already had circled as an upset possibility, but looked like he was going to be a freaking blowout right there in the middle part of that game. And, again, Iowa State made it look a lot better by the end of it. But, yeah, Sorsby was impressive, and they came out guns blazing. And he's a really good quarterback who, when he's on, they are a much better team than probably given credit for. And we didn't get to see that as much against Nebraska right there at the beginning of the season. Didn't have the best game against the Huskers, which obviously was partially their defense, but he seems to have found a rhythm. He's got really good weapons around him. He's got a solid defense opposite him. And I think that they've got some mojo going right now up there in Cincinnati. Now it can be very short-lived, but I think compared to where they were this time last year when they started to turn that corner into basically losing out and missing out on a bowl game. And then, the feeling of that, I think that they're well aided by that memory and knowing like, hey, we've got a job to continue on doing and we're not finished by any means. So stiff challenges await them, but I think UCF at home's a very winnable game. Oklahoma State after that's obviously a very winnable game. So I think they're set up for the next couple of weeks, at the very least, continue to be in this conversation. And then, we'll see how the final month or so goes. But again, guys, we're at the halfway point. So if you're in contention right now, you're not that far from the end of the road either. So Cincinnati, very much a contender here at the halfway point.
By the way, for those of you in the chat, thank you very much for your time. James Foster, go Devils. Obviously an ASU fan. And James Foster's big game. Sun Devils get Moss back, which can free up some space for Leavitt to do his work.
Yeah, I'm excited about that game. It ought to be a lot of fun. I mean, that's a coin flip type of a game, and definitely one where you get to take a step above the other in terms of the hierarchy of the conference race. So very compelling game. Getting Jalen Moss back will be huge for ASU, and just love watching Kenny Dillingham's teams play. I mean, and to think that he's still so young in his career, and he's still got so much to learn himself. It just makes it a lot of fun to think about what the next few years are going to hold if you're an ASU fan or just a Kenny Dillingham or college football fan. But what they've got cooking now with Leavitt and Tyson, much like McAllister and Hoover out in Fort Worth, that's must-see TV every single week. Very much looking forward to Leavitt versus Utah defense. And shoot, Dampier versus this ASU defense, which is feisty and nasty. And makes a bunch of big plays. So this is going to be great.
I saw where Whittingham said he did not recruit Dampier, and he probably said he should have. Not that they don't have their own guy right now. Yeah,
you mean Dillingham?
Dillingham. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But I'm very curious to see, can you keep Devin Dampier, kind of in the well? Can you keep him from running like Texas Tech was successful in doing and making him throw? Now he's effective enough passing, but he's effective wildly more when he's able to run and nobody really knows what he's going to do. The unpredictability factor with Devin Dampier is what makes it. With Sam Levitt, it's not so much unpredictable as it is he's efficient, and he's it's really difficult to stop him when they have all their weapons going.
He can break your back with a run.
Yeah,
I mean, they can dial that up, and he can hurt you with the run. So yeah, both quarterbacks could very well have some rushing touchdowns in this game. Would not be surprising at all. But that is one thing about Dampier. I think Utah is like wanting to see more of that ability to get out there and make those big plays with his feet. And Whittingham versus Dillingham, I wonder how often names like that have been like matched up coaching. Whittingham versus Dillingham. I don't know. I don't think that's probably happened that often where you've had long ham-ending names squaring off like we're going to have this weekend.
We have
Ham Bowl. Ham Bowl 2025.
We have a lot of different fan bases. In fact, I just mentioned Mike, who's a ASU guy, but we have a lot of you that are Texas Tech fans. Whatever school, we have a lot of you watching. Now, sometimes not as involved as others, but you are watching. We appreciate that. I am not a Tech alum. We've covered the hell out of them. Craig was there for a little bit. Jennifer graduated from there too. But I don't know about this change. This is their new logo. The top left to the right, middle to the right, and left to the right. I got to tell you, I've always liked the T, the old double T. I really have. The state, the right, or whatever. But I don't know about this one. And I've seen that some of you in the chat room aren't real thrilled with, who are Tech alums and fans.
I've seen a very mixed reaction. I don't think you could say, if you've been looking around, that there's overwhelming support for or against. I think it's very much a mixed reaction. And there's been this weird design trend, which I guess all of the designers eventually get together and they dictate what the things are going to look like moving forward. So one does something and it becomes trendy and all the rest of them follow. Like, 'cause I don't know what made this sudden trend of the debeveling, I guess you could call it, where we saw, I swear, like beveled logos were popular for a while. And now it's almost popular to debevel your logo. You know what I mean? It's just like the kind of trends that go in and out. And so I guess Tech's debeveling, if that's even a word. And yeah, I'm with you. I don't know that I love it. I saw it framed differently, like they were arranged differently, and it made me feel differently than looking at them now. And maybe just come up close and I'm seeing them larger. I definitely like the beveled more at the top than the non. So I don't think that they upgraded their logo in any way there. I think I like the one on the left, the second row, better as well. And then I don't know. I think I like the third one on the left as well. So yeah, I think I'm in the camp of downgrade.
Yeah, Kim likes the bottom right corner with the masked
rider. I can see that. I can see that.
Okay. You know why he does? I bet you he has the same opinion as me. That horse compared to, like, look at the horse on the left.
Yeah, it's more muscular.
That's a little wimpy horse.
Yeah,
that's not what you want.
Okay,
this horse is
that horse looks like it could easily be
stallion right there.
That's Zorro.
Yeah, that's the one I paused on because that one makes me go, I could go either way, and I maybe even go to the right. The other two, though, I like the beveled better.
No, the top left is to me the best. And again, sometimes newness is okay. In the chat room, old logo is better. Feels like a Cracker Barrel move. Oh my God!
I saw that comment.
I love the level, the bevel. I like the horse better on the right. That's from Roger.
I did
so it looks as bad as the blue Houston's uniforms.
Hey, now
you're gonna get Garrett out of his chair.
Garrett. So again, just throwing it out there. That was released earlier. That's for not this year. It's for all of what they do starting in 26, 27.
That might be a good question for Andrew. I know I'm just kind of throwing you on the spot here, but upgrade or downgrade on the new Texas Tech beveled logos or the de-beveled logos versus the old ones. And I think that, I think I'm in favor of the old ones. I'm all for change. I'm not somebody that – I think there's certain things you don't touch. I don't think this is necessarily one of them. And I actually have liked some of their throwback uniforms when they've gone with more of the plainer logos. But yeah, I think I'm in the camp of the old was better in this case, if I had to choose a side.
All right. So a lot of you, with as long as they aren't any flames on it, I'm cool with it. Downgrade, in my opinion, the TTU, the Raiders, or the Matadors. Is this Texas Tech? Yes. Or is it the Matadors or the Raiders? That's what they're talking about with the horse. So there's some good for you. I appreciate the response. Whoever you are, whether you're a Tech fan or not, if you like it or not.
People get mad about fonts now.
No, they do.
They do. People are very attached to fonts.
I like Times New Roman.
Like Times New Roman.
Yeah.
Can you throw that back up there one more time?
We got Ari coming up in 5 minutes.
I think the second one, the beveled, is clearly better because the other one looks just too plain and looks too high school football to me. Yeah. The third one, I could definitely go with the newer look. I definitely think that kind of dressing up everything there does actually look pretty good. It pops off a little better. So of the three new ones, that bottom Master Rider is definitely the best one. And on the top one, I think I go to the left as well pretty easily.
You know why?
The other one, it looks like Texas Tech, but it also looks like Temple. Yeah. It does, like, whereas the top left, like, that's Texas Tech.
No, that's
Texas Tech. There's no question about it.
I think I like it because there's depth to it, which is kind of what you mentioned, de-bevel or whatever. But I like it. Kind of gives you beveled. It is. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of got. Well, the other one's been de-bevel, whatever that word is. It gives me some depth. All right, there we are.
You know what that word is?
Texas Tech.
A word that may or may not exist because I feel like I just created de-beveled in my head. I don't know if that actually.
There's an actual tool called a bevel. So yeah. All right. Real quickly.
That's what they use to make the fonts.
Yes. Here we go.
It's like Canva.
First time 5-0 since when? North Texas playing USF. 1959. I know that year I was born. 1974 UNLV. Tech 13. Georgia Tech 14. There you see the list. A&M 16. Ole Miss, Missouri, Oklahoma a couple of years ago, and then a bunch of teams that were 5-0 on that list. BYU, Indiana made the playoff, and Ohio State made the playoff, and Oregon made the playoff. Miami? No, they did not. But that's a part of, and then Memphis having a really nice year as they seem to be really good in a run for about the last decade at 6-0.
Yeah, I don't care about any of these recent ones. I know that they're just listing out who's 5-0 to start the year, so I get why they're mentioned, but that's obviously not super impressive or the craziest, funnest thing to talk about is, you did this 2 years ago? Cool. I mean, or you literally did it last year.
I saw an article like Oklahoma is ranked in the top 10 for the first time since 2022. It's like, that's just 3 years ago.
I get you got to put stuff out and everything. So, I mean, and again, they're just listing the 5-0 teams. So I get why they're mentioned. But yeah, to see the actual ones that are like, make your jaw drop a little bit and go, wow, it's been that long. I mean, for UNLV and North Texas, that's very cool. Very, very cool for the Mean Green. Really appreciative that Eric Morris joined us in the last few days. When was that? Was that Monday?
It was last Thursday.
Oh God. Whoo, buddy.
They had an off week and getting ready for this week.
Man, I need to reset my brain. Okay. So anyways, love their story. We've talked a bit about them, and I think that game now coming up with USF is a game that maybe nobody anticipated being that big of a deal, but is suddenly on my must-watch list this weekend. So, I'm looking forward to that game, and I hope they can keep it going because it's a great story around here.
From 59 to 2016, to me, you go back and see when was the last time. But the other ones, again, they're just kind of updating them. They've been having some success at 5-0. When we come back, Ari Temkin, he's in L.A. today. He'll join us. Mack Brown from an interview earlier today, and I got to say that we've interviewed him quite a bit. Really enjoyed his take on Texas OU week, Texas, and what's going on in Sark and the Heat and whatever else, and so much more. And we'll also today, of course, it's Tuesday, so we have Off the Radar, and John McClain will join us. This is 365 Sports. Baylor alumni, Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe. Every time that Baylor's at any kind of event, they'll set up some sort of I don't know about meet and greet, but some sort of an area where you can go by and pick up like pins and buttons and colors and et cetera. Every game at home, just south of McClain Stadium, over the pedestrian bridge. We broadcast many pregame shows from there over the years, back when we were in radio, and they'll have a setup, and they'll have a huge corporate tent with food and drinks and a lot of fun. And the food's there for you as long as it lasts. And they'll have music And that's also where they drop by with the players getting off the bus to walk across the pedestrian bridge into the stadium. So about a 200 or 300 yard walk, but that's where they are every home game. No game this week, at TCU next week. Next time they're at home, they will have that set up. The Baylor Alumni Group. Go to Facebook for more information.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
It's back 0% for 72 months on all 2025 Ram 1500 trucks during the Drive into Fall event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $16,000 off, or a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $12,000 off, and both at 3.9 for 72 months. And if you drive a Ford, Toyota, or GM, get an extra $1,500 bonus cash. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We had a part of our conversation in the opening headlines and topics was about Jacob Rodriguez, and also his wife has become quite the star, television picture star with game broadcasts. Ari, over the weekend, Jacob Rodriguez is a badass on Texas Tech's defense, but not more badass than his West Point graduate wife. We were discussing that. We brought that up as a trend. Now, back in there was Shipley and McCoy, and there was Catherine Webb, but the bottom line, more on than his wife, but he is right now as good a player playing defense in the Big 12, maybe in the country.
Yeah, and a lot of times, Smokey, I think we get a little fatigued as fans.
Yes.
As they're constantly, ESPN in particular, surveying the crowd for family members. But Emma Rodriguez is definitely not one of those. I mean, she is, West Point graduate. She's an Army officer and a helicopter pilot. So, yeah, amazingly badass. And, I mean, Jacob Rodriguez has such an incredible story. I mean, he started as a quarterback at UVA, and he has been the best player on some bad defenses for Texas Tech. Well, now the defense matches Jacob Rodriguez. And so, just his path and starting as a quarterback, getting to Texas Tech, being a really good linebacker on some really bad defenses, and now, the best player and maybe one of the most crucial players on arguably the best defense in the country. And that's certainly something that Joey McGuire believes. And, I think it's almost weird. We almost have to recalibrate ourselves in looking at Texas Tech, like even just looking at the jerseys as they play. Like it's hard to believe that their defense would be this good or could ever be this good. And I don't know that we're there yet in terms of understanding how good this defense truly is, because their offense is really good too. And obviously with Texas Tech, historically, we've just always been enamored with what they've done on offense. And yeah, this Texas Tech defense is legit.
Well, it took a lot of, like trial and error research of the Joey McGuire staff to figure out what they wanted, but getting a new play caller in there was very important. Someone who had a different perspective than maybe they'd ever had, but the talent evaluation that they did, I think sometimes the portal becomes oh crap, we need a defensive end. Who's the best guy we can get right now kind of a thing with this money. Like, they didn't have any financial restrictions on those things, which certainly helped. But also there's some schools that have had that and be like, yeah, go get that defensive tackle, pay him $2 million. And then he's not really that good. They really drilled down on who fit, didn't they?
Yeah. And Paul, I think this is a really important point here. And I give a lot of credit to Joey McGuire because, it's one thing to go out and spend money. I mean, Jimbo Fisher spent tons of money at Texas A&M. But if you can't bring the room together, if you can't galvanize the group, that's the thing we always refer to as culture. Like, it just doesn't matter. And I remember talking to Joey McGuire at Big 12 Media Days, and it was kind of like, well, it's on you now. Like, this is the talent is there. It's on you now to bring those guys together. And yeah, I mean, Romello Height I think this is his fourth school. David Bailey, did he come to Texas Tech because of fit, or did he come because they're the highest bidder? So I think those conversations are extremely important in terms of fit. And I knew Texas Tech did a really good job of figuring out not just fit, but also like, all right, where are the areas we really need to spend money in the portal? But I give a ton of credit to their coaching staff and Joey McGuire in particular, because, it really is on him. They do have some guys like Romello Height's a good example of this. Like, he's kind of a mercenary, like he's been around and he's looking for the highest bidder. And so you've got to be able to get those guys to buy in. And Paul, I think that's the biggest factor here. And maybe the most underappreciated story of the college football season is how much of a buy-in he's gotten. Now, look, they haven't really faced adversity yet. And, I don't know that they will in this Kansas game, but next week, we've got, the Big 12 game of the century of the year with Texas Tech and Arizona State in Tempe. Well, now they might have to face some adversity. Let's see what happens to this team in terms of their collective unity when they get punched in the mouth, because that's really what we're going to find out, this team's mettle.
Ari, big win for Cincinnati. There was a lot of smoke leading to that game. It wasn't a shocker because I think most of the week they were favored to win the game. And then you had all the reporting about Iowa State's corners and everything else. But man, to get up early the way that they did, it looked like not only going to win, they're going to kick their ass. And Iowa State saved some face. But what were your thoughts coming out of that game? And where do you kind of put Cincinnati now in your pecking order without trying to, overreact too much?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think if something happens in one game, whatever, it can happen. It could be an anomaly. I think you look for patterns, though, things that happen over multiple games. And, in watching the Kansas game, you've seen teams run through Kansas tacklers. But the Iowa State game, I think, confirmed what we had seen Cincinnati do to Kansas. I mean, Tyree Walker, he is an absolute load. And, I mean, he had a 17-yard run in the first possession of the game against Iowa State that, like, he broke 9 tackles. And it should have been a no-gain run, and yet he gained 17 yards, and he broke 9 tackles. And I think that really set the tone for the game. Like, they are a physical football team in every way. And, I mean, it's their offensive line. You talk about adding the right guys to the portal. They had Gavin Gearhart at center, and then they had, Tyron Tayo and Joe Cotton, 2 guys have become huge for them. So they're very physical at the point of attack in terms of their run game. And then their runners are physical. I mean, even Evan Pryor, who, we think of as more of a finesse, outside runner, speed guy. I mean, even he was breaking tacklers in this game. So I think, Tyree Walker, we cannot sleep on how big of an acquisition that was, because he's just, it seems like, set the tone for the physical nature of this football team. And they, like, Brennan Sorsby plays that way now with breaking tackles. And I mean, just go back and watch that game. Some of those runs were just very physical. And I mean, Carson Willick, who's a really good linebacker in this conference, he was bulldozed multiple times in this game by multiple runners. And I can't remember who it was that said this a couple of years ago, basically in just looking at sort of like tells for success in the Big 12 historically, and like the best physical running football teams tend to win this conference. Obviously, we look at Arizona State last year, like that was their calling card. I think Arizona State, again, is a very good physical running team. Cincinnati may be the best in that department in the Big 12 in 2025.
So let me ask you this. This is a hypothetical, but somebody asked it in the chat. It's kind of a cool question. Notre Dame's got 2 losses. If they run the table, and again, this is way down the road, but
they're in.
Yes, and they might be anyway. But let's say Tech goes 11-2, but they don't win the Big 12, which means they'll lose twice, and maybe the Big 12 champion. Are they now a big enough brand, at least with what they've received, with the attention, to get in as an at-large over maybe some teams otherwise that would not happen?
So 11-2 conference champion, or an 11-2
11-2 lost in the championship game?
I mean, yeah, I could very well see a situation in which that team is in the college football playoff and that the Big 12 gets 2 bids. I think it just depends on who they play and how many losses they have. If it's a team that's, an Arizona State, an Iowa State, a Cincinnati, if they're only a 1-loss team. Yeah, I mean, look, I think to your point, Smokey, like there's so many hypotheticals in this situation that have to play out. But I mean, where they are right now at 9th out of the top 10, they should be higher. But if they keep winning, the teams in front of them are playing each other. So there's an opportunity here for them to really get into the top 5, especially this weekend with another 20-point win over Kansas. But yeah, I mean, I think it's their non-conference schedule probably works against them, but the reality is they've beaten every team they played so far by at least 20 points. And so, like, the results are the results. You can only play the team you've got that you're going up against, and they have absolutely taken care of business in those games. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's very much a path this year for the Big 12 to get multiple bids. We've been talking, guys, for years about the Big 12 being more top-heavy. Well, it's here. I mean, just look, we talked about this last week. There's 3 more games this week out of the 7 that are double-digit lines, including Texas Tech playing a 4-win Kansas team as a double-digit favorite in that one. So I think that speaks to how top-heavy the league is. I mean, go back and look at lines heading into week 6, week 7 of the Big 12 season last year. You're not going to find many double-digit lines in any of those games. Most of those lines are 3, 4, 5 points at most. So I think that speaks to Vegas seeing where the conference is. I mean, I think West Virginia looks like a team that's going to be a bottom feeder. Obviously, we know Oklahoma State's already there. So, yeah, I mean, I think what you have right now is a clear delineation between the top and the bottom of the league, and maybe even more so the top and middle of the league too, which might have been what Texas Tech did to Utah, right? Like Utah, we don't know how good Utah is. They look really good, but then got punked by Texas Tech. So does that say more about the top of the conference than it does about Utah? I think so.
Ari, last year the Big Ten, granted they're the Big Ten, but Indiana is the example like you go by if you're trying to say, well, this team deserves to be in or doesn't. I mean, like last year under those very similar circumstances, Indiana got in, right? So, I mean, you could, like, they didn't have a great non-conference schedule, nor did Penn State, for that matter, who was in the playoff. So I understand that Penn State carries a lot more weight, but Indiana to me would be the comp.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if we compare the Big 12 in its standing currently to the ACC, I mean, just look at the non-conference record. And so, you figure with where Miami is and the rest of their schedule, like maybe they lose one of these surprise games like we're used to seeing Miami do, or maybe they run the table and, we don't have to worry about multiple ACC bids. But for a conference in the ACC last year that got 2 bids, it feels like that's the Big 12 this year. Basically, unless Miami doesn't win the league, loses in the conference championship game and the automatic bid goes to somebody else. And that could be the reason that the Big 12 is only one team now. But I think when you look at the non-conference slate for the Big 12, they're clearly ahead of the hierarchy of the ACC. And, the ACC's other argument was it was more top-heavy, right, with the Clemson, Florida State, Miami's of the world, where you could argue the Big 12 is much more top-heavy this year. I think the one thing, Paul, is, how much should and how much does talent matter here when you look at the preseason AP Top 25, when you look at the college football playoff rankings, the blue chip ratio, that stuff, like that matters. Talent level 4 and 5 stars matters. It's weighed into many of these metrics that are used in order to create that top 25. So while I don't know how much that helped Indiana as a team, I think being in the Big Ten helps them because the talent discrepancy between the Big Ten and the SEC is that much larger than it is with the Big 12 and the ACC. Texas Tech's on its way there in terms of a blue chip ratio, which is, 50% of your roster being 4 or 5 star recruits over a 4-year period. Texas Tech, BYU, Colorado are kind of on their way there. TCU has recruited a high level the last couple of years in terms of having number 1 and number 2 classes the last few years in the Big 12. But I think, this conversation in comparison, like it makes sense to us to compare Indiana with some of the teams in the Big 12, but it's tough because it's not exactly apples to apples because of the factor of the talent that plays in some of these advanced metrics they're looking at when they're measuring out these teams.
So this weekend, big game on Saturday night, Arizona State and Utah could have a lot of say in what all we're talking about here and the rest of this way. Sun Devils in Salt Lake City and Utah right now 6.5 points, Ari, 6.5 point favorites, 9:15 kickoff at Rice Eccles. What are your thoughts about this game, this matchup?
Yeah, the line is kind of surprising, right? I mean, considering, Utah looked to be at the top of the conference or right there, and then Texas Tech punked them, right? So, I mean, how do we evaluate where Utah is when the only major evaluation point in terms of high-level competition was Texas Tech, and it's not a great showing for them. It's really interesting because this is, I want to say exactly a year ago that Arizona State burst onto the scene by beating Utah, who at that point was ranked 16th in the country in their own building. And, they rushed the field. Kenny Dillingham had that viral moment on the field where he's screaming and going nuts. So it's amazing to think about a year later how much things have changed for both programs. And now, we're surprised that Arizona State is, just a shade less than a touchdown of an underdog going to Rice Eccles Stadium. I think the biggest thing when I look at this matchup individually is Arizona State's ability to disrupt the passer. They've been so good. Last year they were good defensively, but their margins were slim because they just didn't sack the quarterback much. They had 6 sacks last week, Arizona State. That's like more than they had in like a 5-game stretch last year. So, I mean, they're one of the best teams in the country right now at sacking the quarterback. To me, that's the game within the game because Dan Pierce hard to sack. He's good on the move. So their ability to disrupt what Utah wants to do with their pass rush, their defensive line is huge because, as we know, Utah wants to start running the football. They want to run the ball, control clock, and play good defense, and then eventually make plays down the field off play action. If Arizona State can win up front, that they can completely disrupt what Utah's trying to do.
It's such an interesting league, and it's fun. I went down the rabbit hole of looking down the road, but this week, which game other than the obvious maybe catches your attention more than anything else?
Yeah, that's a great question because, I mean, the obvious one here this week is Arizona State, Utah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very intrigued by BYU, Arizona. I think those are clearly the 2 best games in the Big 12 this weekend. This will be the toughest test from a defensive perspective that Bear Bachmeier has faced in a very young career. Bear Bachmeier is the best story in college football that nobody's talking about. He's a true freshman quarterback who wears number 47, and his name is Bear. And he spent spring football in Palo Alto, California. So, I mean, for him, and we interviewed Kalani Sitake today for an interview that will air tomorrow on Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, so make sure to download the app and check it out. But, I mean, Sitake said basically his first live snaps that he took were at fall camp. A true freshman. He was playing high school football a year ago. And now he is leading a 5-0 BYU team as a true freshman, and he's impressive. Like, is he perfect? No, of course not. He had 2 mistakes in the game last week. He threw an interception and had a fumble. And it's like he's got a short memory for that kind of stuff. He's just got this great tempo and pace about him. Like he's in command. He knows when to run, when to throw. Like he's going to continue to make mistakes. And this is, I think, the best bullet point or resume point for him yet, because this is a really good Arizona defense. They had that one loss, but I still think this is a team that could compete towards the top of the conference because of how good their defense has been. So, this is by far the best defense he's played. This sets up a stretch of very difficult games for BYU, where they play at Arizona this week, then Utah, and then 2 road games at Iowa State, at Texas Tech. That's their next 4 games, guys. So 1 home game, which is Utah, their rival, next week, and it's Arizona, Texas Tech, Iowa State, all consecutively, all on the road. So we're about to learn a lot about how good BYU is, because they're loaded everywhere, except the major question is their true freshman quarterback, who hasn't been tested that much, but is about to really be tested.
Yeah, and if not for the baby face, if you just told somebody like, oh, he's a junior, they'd be like, yeah, totally, because he plays that way. But I'll extend it even further. You ran down the list, but even after that, now you look at it, TCU at home, so okay, and then at Cincinnati suddenly looks like it could be another. So, I mean, the next 4 to 6 weeks for BYU, for all they haven't played anybody. Well, they're about to, so we're about to see what's going on. I'm excited to see them lace it up against some better teams as well. So this should be fun.
Great call, Craig, on sometimes who thought the BYU Cincinnati game at the end of the year would be as big of a deal as it could end up becoming. Mm-hmm. So it's a great point. And I mean, it really, their schedule has worked out really well for them, because, if they had a Baylor schedule, that could have absolutely sabotaged everything with a true freshman quarterback. So they've kind of been able to ramp things up. I mean, a tough road game at East Carolina, it's winnable, but that's a tough road environment. He had to come from behind at Colorado. Again, we can look at the 5 wins they've had so far and nitpick how good those teams are, but I think it's really worked out well for them to sort of ramp up. He's had a few tough tests along the way, and now this is one of the writers who's a beat writer for BYU for the Salt Lake Tribune basically said, they've had category 2 hurricanes right now. They're about to be category 5 and 6 is coming.
Oh yeah.
Hey man, enjoy California. Appreciate it very much. Ought to be another, every weekend there's evidence. Look forward to what happens. But Arizona State, Utah, Arizona, BYU, a couple of the more ones that to kind of focus in on. Thank you, Ari. See you next week. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Appreciate you, brother. Take care. Great talking to you guys all, and make sure to download the TuneIn app and check out Big 12 Radio. Thanks, everybody.
Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, and again, the interview with Kalani Sitake that they'll have tomorrow. When we come back, my conversation with former Texas and Hall of Fame college football coach Mack Brown, but a super chat before we hit to the break. $10, Kim Coulter. Wow. Coulter Family Tailgate will be open for free wraps, free beer, and free booze. That's right outside Texas Tech and Jones Stadium, AT&T Jones Stadium, coming up this Saturday. Everything at his tailgate is on him.
Damn, Kim. Not surprised by your generosity, but if I had the ability to be out there, I'd definitely hit you up on that. And so anybody that's going to be in town for that game definitely should walk up and partake and get to know Kim and some 365 sports fans. So that's awesome. That's awesome for anybody out there.
Yeah, he got his hats too. I know.
Sweet.
No, he did. He did. And he's got the big logo on the tent and much more. So thank you, Kim. Appreciate that for your generosity. All right.
I texted him the other day during the Baylor game to see what his thoughts were on Matt Wells. And he didn't hold back.
He usually doesn't do that. Hey, Chase Wade, I just got your chat comment. Man, I think you're going a little bit too hard on what we were talking about with Jacob Rodriguez and his wife, Emma, but that's okay. We appreciate your feedback. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, and a full-service butcher shop and also bakery. Every single week there are specials. No home game at McClain Stadium this week, so, it doesn't matter. They have what you want the next time you need tailgate product, food, whatever. Charcoal, pellet fuel, all the marinades and seasonings, cold beer and wine, and, of course, tri-tip, brisket, sausage, chicken, and also much more. 10% right now on all Boar's Head lunch meat. 10% off all shrimp. They have whole chickens for $1.40 a pound. boneless pork chops, select choice and prime ribeye steaks from $15.75 to $27.99 a pound. They have, if you want, out the side window, you could drive through and get yourself a really nice cup of coffee or what they have in the morning. The Bauer family, been a part of the business decades, generations, feeding restaurants with a great product for what you eat when you get there. Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
At BK Ford, we step onto the field every day for our customers. Here, legends are born and glory is earned. The spirit of competition unites us all as we stand as one. It's more than a truck, it's a passion. Get ready for the thrill, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments that only BK Ford can deliver. Are you ready to experience better? BK Ford.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with Sikkim 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients that have made our company a success.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Hall of Fame college football coach and a great friend of mine and the show, Mack Brown, with us on 365 Sports. I was going over, we've talked a lot in the last 6 to 8 months, but what is the more intense or deep emotion? Winning Texas OU, and I know national championship and all that, but winning the Texas OU game or losing it?
Oh, losing. Absolutely. When you lose it, you lose part of who you are. You lose your state. You lose the pride in your state. But, David, I've always said I remember the losses a lot more than the wins. People ask me, which game do you remember the most? It's either the national championship game or the 3-point loss. I mean, the 3-second loss at Texas Tech when we were number one in the country. Those don't go away. I was 10-4 against Texas A&M, 7-9 against Oklahoma. Didn't do as well as I should have, and 3 or 4 of those were blowouts. So, yes, I remember the Ricky Williams rushing right after Doak Walker died, wearing his number and pointing to the sky.
Yeah.
I remember the win in 05 where we'd had a losing streak, and we had to win that one to get to LA to the Rose Bowl, and we did. Blew them out. I remember when we were both 1-5 in 08. And both had great teams, and that was one of the best games I've ever been around. I think it was 45-35. So I remember the last game when we were struggling some, and everybody thought I was gone anyway, and the kids stepped up and won, I think, 36-20. So you remember those things, but you also remember the losses more.
You know, the 05 game, you had beaten Ohio State earlier that year. But that game against OU, and you blew them out, you had a hell of a team, great team, and eventually won it all. Did that show you they were at a different level because they won that big early game and they followed up? They did not lose any focus.
Yes. Yes, David, it did. Our deal was we were good enough. And before the season, we had to get a theme. Our theme was take dead aim. It was Harvey Penix. Don't look at the sand. Don't look at the water. Man, look at the pin. So our dead aim was to win the national championship, and that was it. And then the other thing that Matthew McConaughey and a friend of ours in marketing, Roy Spence, came up with before the season was, let's make the conference championship your goal, the national championship your dream. So when we walked out of the shoe, and that was a hard place to win at night. They hadn't lost a night game to a non-conference team ever, I don't think, and 106,000. We couldn't hear. I mean, it's one of the most electric atmospheres I've ever been around. And we couldn't even hear from upstairs to downstairs. It was so loud. We're just trying to hang on. And then we walked out of there. We knew we had a chance. And then we hadn't beaten Oklahoma, and they were better than us during those times, but we hadn't beaten them, so we knew we had to beat them. And then after that, we actually started, after the Oklahoma game, we started comparing our stats to the USC stats every Sunday after a game. So we'd put Oklahoma State to bed. We'd put Texas Tech to bed. And then we would put up the USC stats and our stats and say, okay, Reggie Bush got this many yards. We didn't. We had too many penalties, so we didn't beat USC today. So we actually started focusing on USC the week after the Oklahoma game.
Man, that's a locked in focus. I mean, it's like being in I'm not a hunter, but being in a deer season, and you have to wait a long time, but you have to stay focused the whole time, and you do. So I've covered OU, Texas, the game, the Red River rivalry. I've been in the Cotton Bowl. I mean, I probably in television covered it 10 or 12 times, and then also a few other times. I can explain it, but you as a coach, the 50-50 split, I mean, it is the burnt orange and it is the crimson. And it's unbelievable. And it's really pretty cool. I even sat one time, Mack, in the end zone, not far from Bevo, but far enough from Bevo. And I just sat there and took it in as a young television reporter. It is phenomenal.
No, it is phenomenal. It's probably wherever you are is the greatest rivalry because you live it and you're involved with it. But this one in Georgia, Florida, in Jacksonville, 50-50, probably some similarities. The state fair adds to this. The 200, 300,000 people outside listening to the game that can't get tickets. We actually had one of our parents get in a fight sitting on the 50-yard line with an Oklahoma fan across from him. That after the game, I said, well, everything okay? He said, nah, well, one of our dads got in a fight. And I said, of course, they don't like each other. And then Sally's first Texas OU game, my wife, she's sitting there with a great friend of ours. It's a real strong Christian. They sing the fight song, and at the end they say, I know OU sucks. And Sally looked at her and said, you can't say that. That's not nice. And she said, oh, even God knows OU sucks. So, I mean, that's when Sally realized this is for real with the fans on both sides. And it's very unique that I was able to coach on both sides.
Yeah, you did, because you were the offensive coordinator. That nasty 15-15 tie. It was pouring down rain. Switzer was at OU at the time for a long time and was the head coach. What was that like? And then next thing you know, you're on your way to North Carolina, and then you're you're at Texas, because they're a Royals OU guy, right? And not you say it that way, but he was. It's kind of unique, isn't it?
Yes, I coached at OU and was the head coach at Texas. Coach Royal played at OU and he was the head coach at Texas. And I think it just gives you a real insight into how both feel. Oklahoma, they close school after the game when they win. They don't even go to school on Monday. I don't think they're probably not back in Norman by then. And it's so unique. They've got Oklahoma State along with Texas as their rivals, but Texas is their rival.
Right.
Texas has Texas A&M along with Oklahoma, but then you've got an in-state and an out-of-state rival. But then you've got TCU, Houston, Tech, Baylor. I mean, they all hate you. We always said that most of those schools hate Texas more than they like themselves.
Yeah,
and
you've said that before.
They get up every morning, and that's what they do. I think you said last time, I made the Baylor people mad when I said that. Facts make people mad sometimes. That's just it. So you have to be ready to play each game. You have to be ready to play each week. But this one, David, the game before, it affected. We're walking off the field after a win, and people are chanting "Beat OU, beat OU."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your kids are thinking about this game while they're playing a week before. I thought it was a real disadvantage for Texas to go to Florida last weekend. Oklahoma had Kent State at home. They got to play. They got to beat them. They saved some stuff for Texas, and they were rested. Texas didn't get home till midnight after a really physical loss. So scheduling is an advantage. And then also, whether you win or lose, it's a factor for the next week.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the game before and the game after is huge, because this is a game changer. It used to be a huge bowl game with implications of conference championship, national championship, but now it's college football playoff implications, and it's middle of the season.
If you sat down with Steve Sarkisian this week, and I know you guys sometimes you're on the campus at UT with your office, but they're obviously, there's some things that aren't clicking. Offensive line is struggling. Arch started off, but they're still good. Are they just a good play away from clicking in, or is this a team that right now is just like a piston not working in an engine?
No, David, I think they're close. I thought Steve really captured it. I really love listening to his press conferences after the game and on Monday when you've had some time to clear your head and think about it. You shouldn't hold a coach responsible for anything he says after a game, because we got no clue.
Oh.
We're mad, we're frustrated, we're mad at us, we're mad at the fans, we're mad at the team, we're mad at everybody if you lose. And if you win, you're just so happy it doesn't matter, and you're cutting up, you're laughing. And I'd say some things, and I get home, Sally'd say, "Did you really say that?" And I said, "Well, I was cutting up." And they said, "Well, they missed that part. They didn't think it was very funny." So it'd get me in trouble some. But Steve said it's a game of lines of scrimmage. And Florida whipped Texas on both sides of the ball on the lines of scrimmage. But it's also missed opportunities in a game like that, because if you think about it, Florida had played Miami and LSU on the road. They'd had some really tough competition. Texas went to Ohio State, but after that, they had 3 gimmies.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you're playing those gimmies, you can convince yourself things are better than they are, because you're playing a very weak team. And you want it to be positive and you want it to be good, but there's a block punt. There's 2 punts that should have been down inside the 1 or 2 yard line that went in the end zone. Those are key. There's offsides. At the end of the game, they still have a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their best players jumps off sides and gives them a first down on 3rd and 4, where if they make them punt there, they get a short field and a real good chance to score, go for 2, tie the game, and get to overtime. So they're really young, they're inexperienced, and when you get in a game like that with a Florida, with an Ohio State, you get exposed.
There are now 2 losses on their resume. There are other teams, a lot of them do. With the college football playoff, you were a part of North Carolina when all that began, but is it with 2 losses in the past, you're done? I mean, you pretty much are done. Now you're not, and especially if you have like your Texas or your Penn State, that was a bad loss for them. How do you think that changes things, knowing that if they were to run the table, which of course that means they beat some really good teams, win the SEC, et cetera, but it almost seems like they have to. How do you focus on this week, which is easy OU, and not too far down the road?
Well, when we beat Ohio State in 05, that was probably the three best teams in the country, Ohio State, Texas, and USC. And we cost them a chance to go to the national championship. If they'd beaten us, we probably were out with one loss in the second game of the season. Last year, Texas has 2 losses. They're in the playoff. Clemson has 2 or 3. Georgia, all these teams have these losses, but now they're in there. Notre Dame loses the first 2 games, and they've still got a great chance to be in the playoff. So by winning the conference championship, you're in. By being a great team and running the table, you're in. So what Sark will talk to the team about this week is we got to go back and be us. We can't worry about process. We can't worry about the results. We got to worry about the process. Why did we have so many pre-snap and post-whistle penalties? It's going to be loud at OU. That thing, the momentum goes back and forth because it's 50-50. So why? Why did we have that many penalties? And Sark preaches every day, don't have pre-snap and post-whistle penalties. They had them. And you can't have them in a great game. You lost the turnover battle. You couldn't run the football. Arch had people, he got smacked all day. He made some great throws. I'm not worried about Arch. If they'll get their protection better and run the ball better, Arch will be good. But Florida ran the ball and let a struggling DJ Legway have a great day because he wasn't under pressure.
Mac, how do you not play this week's game against OU on Wednesday or Thursday emotionally?
David, it is a great question. I did it one year. About the third year, we were okay, and we went up there and got killed. And I thought we'd had good practices. And Coach Royal said, you can't play this game on Tuesday. He said, you played the game on Tuesday. And he said, they're spent by game time. People say, well, they got to be ready to play. Well, you can be worn out because you worked so hard and you wanted to win so badly. And coaches understand how important these games are. I had a fan tell me the other day that if they can beat Oklahoma and Texas A&M, I'm fine. I'm fine. The rest of it will work itself out. But I cannot stand being around those fans and losing. And that's just what you get. So Coach Royal said, you need to go into this game fresh. You need to go into this game simple and let them play, because the pressure will build during the week and it'll get closer and closer and they're going to get tighter and tighter, and you want them fresh. You don't want them worn out. And that great practice when you come off the field on Tuesday where you hit each other and everything looked great, that's when he said, you just played the game. You shot your shot. You can't do that. You got to build up to the game. And that's coaches are human beings. Coaches know on both sides how important this game is.
Mac, you were phenomenal at UT, and then you say you remember the losses, and you had a great run a couple of different times. I know North Carolina the last time was not quite what you wanted, but you still were winning and going to bowl games. And then what you did at Tulane. When you look at the heat of being the Texas football coach, whether you're Darryl Royal or you're Mack Brown or anyone in between, Fred Akers had a great record, and now Sark has had a couple of really good years back-to-back. Can you explain the intensity of being the head coach at Texas and the pressure that goes with it?
Probably not, David. I know when I left North Carolina to come to Texas, I said you could say anything at North Carolina and people might or might not pick it up. You could be cute, you could laugh and cut up with the reporters. When I got here and tried that, oh my gosh. And in fact, DeLoss Dodds, the athletics director at that time, said, you don't have to say it about Texas football for it to be national news. All you have to do is think it. If you think it, they're going to write it. So I understood. Then you start getting cautious and you're careful what you say. And so I had to go to a point that you think about 29 million people. You think about all the high schools, all the high school coaches, all the lettermen, all the top alums, all the faculty, all the writers. You're not only a local team, but you're a statewide team in the biggest state in the country. You're a national team. So everything you said, we used to walk up and 49 reporters would be there. And then the locals get mad if the Nationals write it before the locals do.
Mm-hmm.
And then we added Longhorn Network. So they were in our meetings. They were on our practice field. And then Tech and Baylor and TCU and Oklahoma, they all had it on. They're watching our practice in their offices. And we're trying to figure out how you can hide somebody not being healthy when they're showing drills and who's not out there. And they're taking notes during practice. So what I had to do, David, was take it as there's so much pride in the state of Texas in football and at the University of Texas. So I took it being pride over pressure. And it was my job to make sure that the fans felt proud of their program. And that was top to bottom. When I came here, Coach Switzer called me, and he's a dear friend. And he said, and I'll have to be careful with this language. He said, Coach, you got a monster. Texas is like a monster. And you're going to win enough, that monster is going to feel good, and he's going to eat a lot, and then you're going to have to keep him fed. And he said, there's going to be more coming out the back end than there is going in the front end, so you're going to have to feed that boy big time. And there's some truth to that.
Yeah. What was the most intense negative pressure you felt when you were at Texas? Was it losing to OU early on, like you mentioned, or was it near the end?
No, at the end, I'd been there 16 years.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
4 presidential terms, so that's longer than anybody's going to stay anymore. I mean, it's just like Mike Gundy just left Oklahoma State. There's a time to leave. And I was good as long as I had Don Evans as a chairman of the board of trustees, and I had DeLoss Dodds as the athletics director. When my bosses went away, then things started to change.
Yeah, that's like in high school. If the superintendent leaves or the principal leaves, it just trickled down effect. Yeah.
And there's a time for everybody to leave. It was time for me to leave, and I got that. It was time for me to leave North Carolina this time. So I felt the biggest pressure was we were beating A&M. We had won 10 out of 14. So people didn't even talk about that game. But when you lose to Oklahoma, and we had a couple that we didn't do well and we blew out for sure, people, they're going to talk about what you lose at a Texas.
Yeah.
And 7-9 is not good enough. 50-50 is not good enough. And they wanted it to be 14 or 10-4 like the other one. So I did think that, and this happens, and that's why this game has been streaky. We won 4 out of 5, I think. What happens when you win this game, the fans are all positive and upbeat, and the kids feel good and comfortable and confident they want to win again. When you lose this game, there is so much pressure that no matter what you do, it's kind of like Michigan and Ohio State right now. There's so much talk about it that the kids feel the pressure every minute of every day. So you got to get them ready to go. You got to get them tough enough. You got to get them excited about it. But somehow you've got to take that pressure off of them and still let them understand the importance of the game.
I don't know if you, I hope you don't mind me asking this question. Do you keep up with what's happening? You left the program where you were bowl eligible, and then North Carolina, it ended the second tenure. Do you keep up with what's happening there? And I mean, it's a mess.
David, I try not to, because when you leave, you leave. That's why we live in the mountains of North Carolina, and when the weather cools off, we're actually, I'll head back to Austin this week and then be there till next June. But I think it's really unfair to the coaches there and the players there for the ex-coach to be involved in talking. And I've had so many media people ask me, and I just think it's unfair for me to comment.
Lane Kiffin, 2 more questions, and thank you. Mack Brown, Hall of Fame football coach. Lane Kiffin the other day said that the dynasties in college football, like people have had, and what you mentioned, Gundy's gone, and Dabo's had heat. And are dynasties over because of the rules today in college football, even if a team or two might still stand out?
I would think that it's going to be harder to do what some people have done in the past. It's harder to stay. If you're winning, everybody needs that guy, so they're going to pay you so much money to get you to go somewhere else, whether it's the NFL or college. There's so much scrutiny right now with social media more than ever before. It was funny. I stay on social media because that's the way I get my news. I'm not a reader. I see that this guy walked by and didn't speak to somebody. So he's a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
This guy didn't stop and sign an autograph. All that stuff was non-existent at one point. And now everybody's a reporter. Everybody's got a camera. So you are on the job every minute of every day, and it's full time. The other thing you've got, where coaches are coaching a sport in football that it's 105 now. We had 120 players, and only 11 got to play at a time. And when you're at Texas, you recruit the best players in the country, the most highly recruited kids in the country. They all expect to be great. They can't all be great. And we've lost our patience. Coaches have lost their patience. Administrations have lost their patience. Fans have lost their patience. And players and parents have lost their patience. I want more money. How am I going to get to the NFL? I don't want to be a backup. So the great programs are even having trouble keeping their backups because they all want to start somewhere else and somebody's going to pay them money.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're paying backup money and somebody else is paying starting money, then they're going to leave. So that's going to make it harder to be consistent. You look at Florida State winning all the games till they didn't get in the playoffs, and then they end up, most of the players didn't go to the Orange Bowl, and Georgia killed them. The next year, they win 2 games.
Yep.
And they're back to have a chance to be good again this year. But, the consistency thing is just really interesting. I'm talking to the Texas, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, and they're saying, how much is this player worth? He's worth whatever he's worth to you. What's his value? What do you need him for? No different than your offensive coordinator, your defensive line coach that comes in and said, I want more money. Well, are you worth it? What's your value to me? And that's what's happened in these programs. And now a lot of the major programs are worried more about their backups. So you're forced, they're playing tougher schedules with the 9 in-game, in-league teams now that they're playing. They're going to play less of the smaller schools just to kill them. So you don't get to play enough guys. When you don't play them, they get mad, they leave. So that's where it's really, really hard to keep second teams. And then like where we had at North Carolina, we lost a lot of our backups, and then we got injuries, and you're in trouble.
You think that's why Nick Saban left when he did, and also probably the timing for you is pretty good too?
I think you'd have to ask Nick, but when you look at coaches across the country that have been doing it, whether it's Roy Williams in basketball or the coach at Virginia in basketball, the coach at Villanova in basketball, the coach at Miami in basketball, when you start looking at guys like Nick, like me, we've had a great run. The game was so much fun, and right now there's a lot of things that need to get fixed, and they need to get fixed quickly.
Last question. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't. No. You have done a lot in your life, and you give a lot back. You and Sally, all the foundations and fundraisers, and you were there for the flood victims when we had you on last. What on your bucket list, being a retired football coach, although you never stopped, is there something on your bucket list that you want to do next?
I think that we're doing the Stampede, which is the podcast that Vince Young and I and Bob Ballou are having fun with. And it comes out every Wednesday and want everybody to listen to it. And it's just about Texas football, but college football in general, and our thoughts and the polls and what's going on. So I want to stay relevant with college football. But I want to give back. MJM, Mac, Jack, and McConaughey has been such a gift to Sally and I to be able to help with Jack Ingram and Matthew McConaughey raise money to give to empower kids that don't have as much as the three of us have. And we've been around healthy kids our whole life. Some of these kids need help with their health. We're even trying to help through Dell Hospital the mental health of the flood victims. So giving back, David, is really important to us. And the other thing for me is I always was so fortunate that the older, experienced coaches helped me. So I'm here for the younger coaches when they call or I'll call them after a win, after a tough loss, and say, you're good. Hang in there, man. Keep your head up. I got my butt kicked and many times. And here's what we did. You can't let one beat you twice.
Right.
So it's a gift to me that I've got such a great relationship with so many of the coaches that I can call and talk to them and just feel part of it. A lot of the coaches are asking me to come to games, and I said, I used to have a police escort. The bus that I was on parked right next to the building, and by the time I got through with the team and the press, I walked out and drove off. I don't know that I can go to a game where I have to be like everybody else. I'm so spoiled that it's hard for me to have a parking pass and walk to the stadium and find a seat. And I can't do all that when I can stay at home and watch about 25 games every Saturday on TV.
That would be fun to do that one day. Hey, you stay who you are, Mack. You're amazing, and you and I have gotten to know each other from the day that you were hired at Texas when I met you at a golf tournament up in at Garden Valley, and ever since that time. Thank you very much for what you represent. Appreciate your time, and enjoy the week.
Well, thank you, David. Thanks for having me on, and it's going to be another great weekend of football.
Texas OU in college football. This is 365 Sports.
Is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SPORTS365 to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SPORTS365. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money.
SoftwareDeals.com is here for one reason: to partner with IT professionals and provide them with fantastic software and licensing at ridiculously low prices. We don't have the overhead of a multinational, publicly traded tycoon corporation. We can afford to give those savings to you and your buyers. We know the struggles of small businesses and what it takes to stay afloat in a competitive marketplace.
A leader within the industry, Respawn fuses more than 75 years of ergonomic expertise with gaming culture to create best-in-class chairs. We believe that comfort and performance should be inclusively designed into every gaming chair we create, which is why we're immersed in the gaming community. Respawn is for every gamer. Our products are for professionals and casual players and everyone in between. We don't just make good-looking gear, we bring experience. Visit respawnproducts.com today and find your chair for the next great adventure.
At Prime Putt, we obsessed over every little detail, working with experts to innovate something as simple as a putting mat. We focused on the things that mattered most to golfers: wanting to lower their scores, perfect feedback, developing good form, lifetime durability. Prime Putt is a mat that will perform perfectly and last forever. PrimePutt.com.
What do you want? What's that really good non-alcoholic beer I keep hearing about?
Do you have that really great non-alcoholic beer that I keep seeing?
You mean athletic? You're looking at it.
It's athletic. Ask for it. This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports, thanks to Mack Brown. Garrett for getting here a little bit earlier for that, and a lot of the comments, including one that said he needs to be the commissioner of college football.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind him being a candidate for a role like that. I know there's plenty of people that have volunteered their services, but I think Mack would be the kind of statesman that would make a lot of sense, and count him as a guy. I always respected Mack, like even when he was still coaching, but I've grown to like him a lot more now that he's not a coach, if that makes sense.
More humanized, although he was good.
Yeah, and also just, he's not like riding the sideline of a team you're rooting against, like when they're playing your team kind of a thing. So he's not like an enemy. I think that's too strong of a word, but I think you know what I'm getting at here. You're not playing against him at all. He's a a knowledgeable, successful, and well-meaning guy who's fun to talk to, and you know that he's not sitting there with any agenda right now because he's not leading any team. So he's not coach speaking it. He's not doing a lot of that jazz. So it's just it's a different side that I think we get, which is great because he's an interesting guy to listen to. And I'm sure he's still got a politic a little bit here and there. Don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean.
Well, I thought he was very classy because I asked about North Carolina and he didn't want to say anything because the current staff, it wouldn't be fair to them. Garrett Ross, AP Top 25. We're going to break this down for as long as we can. Craig's got off the radar around the corner, John McClain in the 5 o'clock hour. So there we are, 1 through 25. I have, look at all this. This is note, you may not be able to scribbled notes from Cody Kellner, among others. Couple of notes. Texas Tech, highest they've been since 2008. Highest they have been since 2008. Let's see here. Memphis, best they've been ranked since 2015. Of course, Texas and Penn State all out. So let's go. Anything among the top 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 that jumps out to you initially?
No, not particularly. I mean, I think that, Bama being back up at 8, kind of shows how well they've played, beating Georgia. I'm surprised LSU is kind of still hanging in that 11 spot, and some of the other teams below them haven't passed them yet. But nothing is terribly shocking to me or egregious at this point because the AP was smart enough to drop Texas and Penn State to others receiving votes.
The teams that moved up the most, Craig, in that 5 spots: Missouri, Virginia, BYU, Illinois, Notre Dame. Illinois, who had just given up 60-something a couple of weeks ago, and Notre Dame, of course, has 2 losses. They all, in Michigan, all jumped up the most 5 spots.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State at number 1, no problem with that. Miami getting a lot of love. Oregon, I mean, those are pretty clearly the top 3, I think, most rounded out and established teams at this point in time. And Ole Miss, I guess you could put in there an A&M or an Oklahoma if you want to. I just think that Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon are kind of in their own little grouping right now, and the rest of them not far behind, if at all. But, I think that kind of 3-team race for that number 1 spot, all of them receiving votes is plenty interesting. All 3 from different parts of the country, which I think is good, although just from 2 conferences now because geography doesn't make sense in college football anymore. That's okay. But, yeah, just an interesting group there with those 3. Ole Miss, I don't believe they're going to stick around here like the whole way, but great for them to be ranked this highly. I think just looking at Texas Tech, I mean, that's a great story. We've talked ad nauseum about it, but I think they're deserving of that ranking. And there's not a lot in their way on paper. Of course, Kansas could jump up and bite them this week, but it seems like the rest of the country is kind of firmly establishing, along with a lot of people in Big 12 land, of like, yeah, Tech's the team to beat in the Big 12. And not only are they pretty good, but they might be like a clear cut above. We'll see. And so they're getting their roses, and I think they're deserved right now, having them in the top 10. So I think that's a great thing for the Big 12, who can't ever seem to get anybody past like 12, basically. I know Iowa State got in there close to the top 10. They get to hang around despite the loss. Didn't expect that. Thought they might drop out all the way.
But they dropped 6, and Florida State dropped 7.
Yeah. And look, like the polls very inconsistent as far as what weeks team gets hammered by a loss and can fall out entirely, like a Texas or a Penn State did, versus previous weeks where a team loses and still hangs around. Now, maybe some of that's in the minutia of it, of like, well, Notre Dame lost to so-and-so, and so it was a close game and this and that. But I don't know. Where do you want to go from here as far as I think the biggest thing is Penn State and Texas falling out. I think that's interesting. I don't think that every week would happen. I think it was unique to this week. I don't know if that's the pollsters feeling a little bit of heat from outside criticism or what it may be, but I was not expecting that would for sure be the case for both of those teams. So color me pleasantly surprised, and maybe even not in agreement all the way that I felt like they should be catapulted directly out of the top 25, but I understood where they were coming from with that. And so, that was definitely the most interesting part about this week's poll.
If Texas wins this Saturday, it doesn't matter what the score is. They'll move into the top 25. Those teams that usually there's certain teams that can win, and it takes forever to get in the top 25, and then they lose, they're gone. Some, it takes a little bit more, but it was a surprise to me that both of them were knocked out, especially when they both started at 1 and 2 the year in the top 25 poll. Let me see. The first time since 1986 that 2 teams in the top 10 lost to unranked teams and were also then knocked out of the poll the same week.
Well, and
Tennessee and Ohio State back in 1986.
It also shows you maybe how the voting wasn't good, where you could lose to an unranked team and still keep your spot. But these were both teams that had collectively, when the weekend started, Florida and UCLA had 1 win between them. That's it. And Florida didn't have a Power 5 win, a power kind of an FBS win. Theirs was just their gimme game at the beginning of the year, and then after that, it had been nothing but pain for them until Saturday. And obviously, UCLA's already fired their coach; had been nothing from pain for them until Saturday. So these were a little different circumstances, especially given that both Penn State and Texas had lost to the premier opponent on their schedule before this too. So those are indicators of, okay, well, maybe they're not as good because they didn't beat the premier opponent. And then they had these games, which if you were really that close to the premier opponent, you wouldn't have lost these either, and that's not completely entirely fair. I get it. Like, upsets do happen, but maybe you're just not as good as we thought you were. So let's let you earn your way back into the poll.
Miami will not leave the state of Florida until November the 1st against SMU.
Yep.
Right. And they played Notre Dame, played South Florida, USF, and Florida State, but they will not leave the state to play until they play SMU and then 2 games late in November.
You won't hear Mario Cristobal complaining about travel.
No, it'd be hard. And I get a little fed up, and without getting off track, then off the radar in just a second, but I get a little fed up with coaches complaining about cross-country travel. You all made your bed by and athletic directors and presidents and networks, et cetera, when these conferences got so far stretched out. All right, Craig, anything else about the top 25? I got a couple of the nuggets if you want them, but you guys fire away.
No, not really. I mean, I think we're kind of pressed for time here. So I think it's great to see USF and Memphis getting those spots at the back end. But that's typically where you find them, and not too much higher than that. So, cool that they're involved, but it's also like this weird consolation prize type of thing. The typical kind of grouping of the Big 12 schools also there with them in that back end. Florida State hanging on. It's interesting right there at that very last spot, but I think it takes a little while for the kinks to get worked out of the system when you kind of set the table to begin with. And then there's all of these complaints about the preseason polls for a reason, because clearly teams like Texas and Penn State were overmodulated. At the time, you'll hear, well, what does it really matter? Well, it matters because you got another top 10 ranking, and all we heard was first time number 1 overall ranking, and it was treated like a big deal, only for it to not really have amounted from anything, quite frankly, because 6 weeks later, you're not even in the poll. So you were number 1 preseason, and now you're not even in this thing. And not just Texas, but Penn State to a degree as well. So next year, you'd think that they would learn better. But guess who's going to be in the top 5 and top 10?
Same team.
And more often than not, you're right. But you do that every year, and it never changes. And that's what gets frustrating about these preseason polls, is the deck is always stacked at the beginning for the bigger schools pretty much from the outset. And no matter how many times we learn the lesson of where that shouldn't really be the case, it happens every single year regardless. Because what's going to happen for Texas, for example, is now you know what everybody's saying? Oh, we were a year too early. Arch needed to get some playing time, and their weapons around him are not quite, and the offensive line's not quite. So it's not that Texas is bad, like they were over this year, but they're a year away, guys.
I think
so. Now what will happen is next year. Now it's their year. Now they'll be top 3 to 5.
Yeah,
and then it's always the next year, so that it never ends the hype cycle.
I think you're right. At the same time, I think there's a little damage from this one if they don't turn this thing around and end up with 9 or 10 wins.
Not just focusing on them, but same thing with Penn State. They'll be right back where they were. No lessons will be learned, and then they'll have to lose 2 or 3 times. They'll get knocked out and be like, I can't believe they started at number 3, and then the season after they'll be number 4. It's predictable who you see at the top of these things every year. That's part of the madness of it.
A&M and Indiana have a nation-leading 4 wins against FBS opponents that currently have a winning record. And then here's one other. Alabama's 8th, and again, Florida State's 25th, and they hammered them that game they played. But the one thing about it is the fact that they've looked good. They look good. Now they have Missouri, so you have 3 games this week with top 25s playing each other. But there we are with the AP poll after week number 7. Craig?
All right.
Off the radar.
I guess it's time for
Why don't we do this?
There we go.
This is
Garrett,
Craig
very well
Smoak's
done.
Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Thank you, Garrett. So here we are off the radar, and let's get right into it because we've got John McClain right around the corner. But fun NFL weekend. Our teams surviving well. Cowboys winning, Commanders winning. Really nice win for the Commanders over the LA Chargers this past weekend. But Jerry Jones has been fined $250,000 for his quote-unquote inadvertent obscene gesture, according to Todd Archer, towards fans at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. The Cowboys will probably end up appealing this, as Archer reported, but they have until the end of the week to make a decision. But you may have seen the videos going around of Jerry throwing a middle finger late in the game against the Jets after Dak had busted things open. And Jones went on to say earlier today that it was unfortunate, the sign that he threw. That was unfortunate. That was kind of an exchange with our fans out in front of us, he said on the Fan in Dallas. There was a swarm of Cowboys fans out in front, not Jets fans, Cowboys fans. The entire stadium was brimming with enthusiasm of Cowboys, and certainly late in the game, the gesture was inadvertent on my part because that was right after we made our last touchdown, and we were all excited about it. There wasn't any antagonistic issue or anything like that. I just put up the wrong show on the hand. That was inadvertently done. He goes on to talk for like another 3 sentences about this. It's like, dude, you just accidentally put the middle finger up. Like,
was it one or double barrel? Do you know?
Anyone ever see? Yeah, it was just a one.
Okay. All right.
So he went on to explain in full, and there he is. Yeah, it's accidentally. He just did that there. So Jerry apologizing, but he's been fined $250,000 for that gesture. So probably didn't think that he was going to get caught on. How much did he used to get away with before cameras were rampant? I wonder.
With him, he's been on camera all his life.
Quite a lot, I'm sure. Quite a lot.
Well,
but there you go. Cowboys wins. That's all that really matters, and he's got the money to pay for it. But still, just a funny headline nonetheless that he's got to pay $250,000 for flipping the bird against the Jets.
Jerry, just say, yeah, I did it. I was in the moment. It wasn't appropriate, or like, I'm sorry, but
I was caught up. I was excited. They were giving me hell.
Thumbs up. No, just say it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
That's the standard for the bird, by the way. Bob Kraft has been hit with that. Now somebody else flipping somebody off and getting on camera. $250,000.
Yeah, so that was one NFL headline that was swirling around. Also, you have the Bengals, who are getting Joe Flacco in a trade with their in-state rival, the Cleveland Browns. Cincinnati will also get a 6th-round pick, while they send a 5th-round pick to Cleveland. Cincinnati obviously down Joe Burrow right now, and Jake Browning has not been very good at all, so they're looking for another answer, and so they brought on the veteran Flacco to help keep them afloat, basically, as Jake Browning had 3 picks against Detroit, and he's been a turnover machine. So they've been getting crushed, and instead of just waving the white flag on the entire season, they're trying to make a move. So I commend them for that. So Joe Flacco going to go try to supercharge this offense in the absence of Joe Burrow for Coach Zach Taylor and the Bungles.
Yeah, and it won't take him long to adjust, and he's just going to throw the ball to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and hand it to Chase Brown. I think it's I mean, I don't know if it's an upgrade, but it's probably a step in the, just a more calm direction for the Bengals until they can get Joe Burrow back, which is in December. But the bigger part of this story for the internet guys is Shedeur Sanders is QB2 in Cleveland now.
Yes, he is. So that will only, I'm sure, add gasoline to the constant, never-ending discussion about Shedeur Sanders and when he's going to start and get playing time. I mean, the guy's got a following. You got to love it. And there's a lot of people very vocal about wanting to see him. So you drafted that, that expectation that there would be people that want to see him play. So, yeah, he is a step closer to doing just that and sinking or swimming or whatever the case may be. And so I'm interested in that. But rather than just go to him, Paul, they're like, we're going to go get Joe Flacco. I get a little bit of insurance, so we'll see how all that plays out for Cleveland. Meanwhile, last night, a hell of a football game. Don't know if y'all watched it or not, but Jaguars.
Oh, my God, what an ending.
Jaguars 31, Chiefs 28. Huge win for the Jags, who are now 4-1 and 3-0 at home this season, while the Chiefs are now under 500, 2-3 overall, 1-2 on the road are Mahomes and the Chiefs. They had it was a big, exciting fourth quarter in particular, as far as these two teams dueling back and forth, and a really critical no call goes Kansas City's way. They're able to get a touchdown, and I thought it was maybe over, but sure as hell, here comes the Jaguars with a response, and they're able to pull out a win. And I love what the new regime has done there, but it was Trevor Lawrence on the 1-yard rush with 23 seconds left to go after Casey had taken the lead just a minute 20 prior to that. Again, just a very much a back and forth game. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence punching it in at the end in a goofy run where he had fallen down, looked like he was dead to rights. And if he had not made the decision when he did to get back up and start running, then a Chiefs defender was a half a second away from just downing him, basically, just putting a hand on him. He would have been down. But thankfully, he realized, I'm in the NFL. I'm not down yet. Get up and run. And he got up like a newborn baby gazelle and trampled his way to the end zone, which ended up being the deciding score. The controversial call, or not no call, I guess it wasn't no call, actually, yes, was an interception where clearly there was pass interference. I mean, it was clear as day there was pass interference. Kansas City gets the ball, no flag. They go score to take the lead. And I was like, man, this sucks because this game's been so good. And I know you can go and in the first quarter, the Jags held. And I'm not trying to go down that path. I hate dwelling on officials after games. I'm glad that I don't have to because Jacksonville responded the way that they did. That was an awesome game. For those who maybe not have been tuned in for that one, it was a hell of a game. The Jaguars are legit with Liam Cohen, and I'm excited about what they've got going on there. And the Chiefs are, for them, in a very weird spot where they're under 500, which is not the usual territory for them by any stretch.
No, Liam Cohen's a very, very good coach, and I'm not surprised. Not to mention, look, there was a controversial call at the very beginning of the game. Travis Kelce scored a touchdown on a pick play that was not smartly not cleanly executed by the Chiefs. They do it a lot.
It's very half-assed.
Everybody does it. Yeah, that was the thing. If I were Andy Reid, I wouldn't be mad about the pick play. I'd be mad that hey, we practice this all the time, and we've raised it to an art form. Mm-hmm. But you slamming into both guys at the same time while you're not looking at one of them, not the best idea. Mm-hmm. But nobody called it, and of course, I saw the pictures of the ref with the Chiefs uniform on and all those
at
things.
The Taylor Swift concert.
All those.
But those were two huge touchdown calls. I mean, those are two calls that they go opposite. Now, again, I know, I'm sure there's some Kansas City fan. Well, why aren't you talking about the illegal formation on second down in the third quarter with 12 minutes to play kind of a thing? So that's why I try to avoid. Those were two critical calls that both went Kansas City's way, but it didn't matter in the end.
And I tell you what, Lawrence's run at the end, or whatever you want to call that stumble, was crazy. The throw he made, though, early in that drive for about 30 yards was just as nice as you could possibly make while being pressured doing it. That's what gave him the chance. But they look good.
They look nasty on defense. I mean, they look like they're playing with an attitude, and Jacksonville just seems like maybe they're coherent and they have real coaching and a real direction for the first time in what feels like a long time. It's not just like a temporary thing, but maybe is something that will last a little while. Meanwhile, the greatest coach arguably in NFL history, certainly one of them, has made his way into college football. And this is the biggest story to kind of top things off here is we've seen a very more so than hit type of college football tenure for Bill Belichick at this point, but much to do about this Hulu documentary that was in the works covering North Carolina, which a lot of people thought was probably not the best idea. And as they've struggled, really doesn't seem like it's probably a very good idea. Well, if you thought it was a bad idea, you were right, because eventually everybody's come to the conclusion that this thing's not going to see the light of day. UNC and Hulu scrapping plans for a documentary series with Hulu chronicling this season, first reported by Inside Carolina. This was the second time that there was a documentary attempt, as HBO's Hard Knocks was going to try to do a North Carolina version, if you guys will remember that. So another attempt at it, but another attempt that's not going to go anywhere. And so with the Hard Knocks deal, it was about Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, and her role. And I don't know, but that eventually went south. So now after kind of digging into that, this Hulu project is now no longer going to be going forward as well. So just a dumpster fire right now in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, quite frankly.
It is. And Jordan, if Jordan Hudson's not careful, she's not going to wind up on a Real Housewives show for 5 or 6 more years.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's
definitely
really,
what she's gunning for.
Chapel Hill's not that big of a town to have Real Housewives of Chapel Hill. So this was maybe a miscalculation on her part. It would not shock me to see North Carolina at the end of the year and Bill Belichick just decide
amicably
hey, we're both not into this as much as we thought we'd be. You know, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, but for someone who preaches just lack of distractions and fun, he has just like it's a girl and all that involved, but golly, it just doesn't make sense based on what we've known about him and what he believes as a coach.
Yeah, he's either hypnotized by a young piece of tail, or he's just saying, I'm old and I don't care and I'm just going to live life and not worry about the consequences. I mean, whatever it is, it does seem very unlike a guy of his level of success and just kind of, you would think, a coach, a military background, that whole thing. You would think that he would just not be living this life path at the moment. But here we are, where the guy who was hoisting trophies with Tom Brady over and over and over and over again to the point of nauseum, unless you're a Patriots fan, is now maybe the worst coach in all of college football, with one of the worst programs in all of college football, and with this girlfriend that may or may not be somebody he paid originally. It's just bizarre. Like where he has found himself like 2 years removed from maybe like the heights of his glory. It's like the stuff of fiction or something. I don't know. It's just crazy. So if you were hoping for a reality show, you're not going to be 0 for 2, because they are not moving forward with that Hulu project.
You can't be petty in anything and be really successful, but in something that is a very small world, which is the high level of professional and college coaching. That's a very small world relatively to the rest of your life. You can't just decide, I'm so angry at my old employer, even though they can do things to benefit my current employer, I'm not going to let them here. Wouldn't let them show highlights in the stadium of Drake May's excellent game that he had. That's for recruiting. Like that's not for you, Bill. Like that's for everyone else. That's for the fans.
Well,
and those things they don't end well.
Well, what he's distracted with has started world wars before, and his whole career just seems to be off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not careful, he's going to learn the lesson that a lot of other people, narcissists and things, think that it'll never be them or never happen. But he's watching his legacy kind of crumble in front of him in some ways if he's not careful. So, I'm sure there's plenty of people in his ear telling him that, but just really, again, it's just kind of odd that we find ourselves in this place. It's not surprising, because when the whole ordeal started, you thought maybe it'd eventually lead here, but here we are. And North Carolina, I think, is having second thoughts about what they invested in. And the good news is it can all go away very quickly and relatively painlessly. And I'm imagining at the end of the season that it probably will. So
you know what? Here's a lesson in ego for you. I got an email one time when we were back at the radio station that told me I'd be nothing without Smokey. And instead of saying like, hey, F you, buddy, I said, you know what? You're probably right. So I've applied that to Bill Belichick. And if I'm Bill Belichick and so he says, well, I mean, if it wasn't for Brady, I'd just be like, you know what? You're damn right. And we drafted him and I was smart enough to just, let Tom Brady hunt, and it was a great culture thing. And then when we parted ways, obviously it's really hard to find the second greatest quarterback of all time. So we didn't do that. And, I'm proud of my career. I've got more Super Bowls than anybody. So you think what you want to think.
Egos, Jerry and Jimmy, all the stuff that just enjoy success if you get it.
All right, wrapping it up, a couple of playoff games tonight at MLB, Seattle at Detroit. That's actually ongoing right now. Series tied at 1 game apiece, game 3, and that's underway, whereas later on tonight you'll have Toronto and New York. It looks like Seattle-Detroit actually delayed as they're trying to get that one started up, so actually in a delay it appears. But later on tonight, Blue Jays at Yankees. Mariners-Tigers tied at 1 apiece. Blue Jays on the road up 2-0 on the Bronx Bombers. Both those games on FS1, and first pitch for the later game, 7:08. And then tonight, hockey season starts. Is that correct, Garrett Ross?
Open tonight.
Regular season of hockey also getting underway tonight. So plenty of options out there for you. There's a few things off the radar.
It is that time, and baseball games over, into November? Is that right, to the World Series? But hockey, you're right, Garrett. Do we have John McClain?
I got to call him.
All right, let's take a break, come back with Hall of Famer John McClain, his thoughts about some NFL news and notes, and this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. I, in fact, was on the phone earlier today with Bob Mock. He has 5 locations in the Waco area: Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. He is he's been through the business, up the ladder in the pizza business. A lot of times when I've met people before that have owned franchises, they started out in the pizza company business. They delivered pizzas. That's what they did. And then as you do that, you start to get used to, then all of a sudden you're asked to start making some of the pizzas or give the boss, the general manager, a hand when it gets really crazy on a Thursday, Friday, or a Saturday night, or a football game is going on. He did all that. Then all of a sudden he was a general manager. Now he's an owner of 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco. It's the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza, online. Pizza lovers get it.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-759-8533. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense of investing, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, joins us on Tuesdays in the 5 o'clock hour, and he does today. And John, the touchdown, stumble, fumble, whatever it was, craziness with Trevor Lawrence was one of the most bizarre, like in slow motion plays I've ever seen in the clutch, and it worked out.
Chiefs defensive tackle Chris Jones got unmitigated criticism because he's loafing on the play. And they run it over and over and over. And he didn't really have an explanation for it. I guess he thought he was down and been touched, but it kind of summed up what's wrong with the Chiefs this year. A 2-3 start, I think the first one in 4 or 5 years. And of course, now Jacksonville's tied for first place in the AFC South with Indianapolis. That was a very strange play. In a weekend of strange plays, none more so than Arizona losing at home and blowing a lead to Tennessee in the fourth quarter.
John, the Texans, a fantastic showing against the Ravens, who are racked with injuries. But do you feel like their offense has finally started to find itself, and that C.J. Stroud is the quarterback that we all thought he was a couple years ago?
I'll tell you something, Paul. It started in the fourth quarter against Tennessee, worst team in the league at the time, when it just clicked and all of a sudden they started scoring. And they haven't let up. Now, the Ravens defense was terrible before they were missing their 4 starters. They were missing one lineman, linebacker, and 2 DBs, and the Texans put 44 points on the board against them. Jalen Petrie had 2 interceptions, played a great game. He's playing really well, except for one drive in the season. The last one against Tampa Bay in Houston, in which they lost with 6 seconds left by 1 point. The defense has played very well. Now, offensively, Lamar Jackson was out. The Texans totally shut down Derrick Henry. That is the 5th game since D'Amico Ryans has been the head coach here, in which they have shut down Derrick Henry, who had 4 200-yard games against them when he was with the Titans. Stroud, the last 2 games, he's completing 81.8%, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, ratings of 125.1 and 143.9, and he's been sacked 4 times. 2 of them were his fault. So the offensive line is finally coming together. It is settled on starters, and they're doing a good job of run blocking, and their offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, needed some time to adjust. They needed time to adjust to him. They needed to decide who are the 5 best linemen, which positions are they going to play. They seem to have it figured out, but we won't know for sure till they come off their bye week in a Monday night game at Seattle, which has a much better team, a much better defense, and quarterback Sam Darnold, who just torched the Texans last year for Minnesota with 4 touchdown passes.
John, we see blowouts from time to time in the NFL, but it's not often we see a 40-6 like we saw with what's obviously a very good Colts team versus a now 1-4 Raiders team. Are you more surprised by how good the Colts are, or where the Raiders find themselves? And in general, are you shocked at all that Pete Carroll doesn't have more going on in Las Vegas?
They won their first game against New England, and people really fired up. Geno Smith played well. Geno's been a turnover machine, and that's not what they expected when they got him from Seattle, Pete Carroll's former team. Now, if you look at the Colts schedule, they've done great, but they've won 1 game over a good team. That was Denver, in which they had lost on a missed field goal with no time left, but a Bronco was correctly called for leverage, and then they won the game the next day. So the Colts still have a tougher schedule from here on out than they've had so far, but I believe in them. I still have a hard time with the Jaguars, and that was a freaky victory last night on that play. And but only time will tell. But it looks like it's going to be a two-team race. If the Texans could beat Seattle, and you've got to win games you're supposed to lose. We see it all the time. Patriots at Buffalo, at Philadelphia losing. You've got to be able to do that. And if the Texans were to beat Seattle for their third victory in a row, then they have 3 consecutive home games. And that would be a chance for them to make their move. But, boy, this is a big game because playing in Seattle against a team that's very good defensively with a quarterback, Sam Darnold, who plays great in the regular season, is a tremendous test for the Texans. But right now, their offense looks so much better. But we don't know if it's real or not because of who they play.
Yeah, correct. That was just a blowout. You rarely see those, especially in the NFL. What was the most you've ever been fined for giving somebody the finger?
I'll tell you, Bud Adams, when he was playing against the Titans, were playing the Bills, and I had tried like crazy to get Ralph Wilson, the Bills owner, to do an interview with me about Bud and the 50-year anniversary of the American Football League. And he finally agreed to do it. And then Bud shoots the finger with both hands. He's drunk in the press box, and he's dancing and just giving the fingers like crazy. So Ralph Wilson canceled that interview. And then Roger Goodell, and this has never come out, but I know it's true, fined him $250,000 per finger. And somehow Bud got it reduced to $250. Now, if he fined Bud $250, Jerry Jones, all these years later, there's inflation, and Jerry should have been more than $250.
I just wish he would have leaned into it, John, and said, I did it. Yeah.
He should have just said that. He should have been like, yeah, I did it. And so what?
Nobody accidentally shoots the finger at people multiple times. And I'm so surprised that Jerry Jones, of all the people, you would think who would admit it because he doesn't care about $250,000 would have been Jerry Jones. But you talk about taking the wussy way out. He certainly did.
He's had bar tabs bigger than that. It's ridiculous. John, Aaron Glenn and the Jets are hapless, absolutely hapless. He was very highly thought of. And look, it's his first 4 or 5 games as a head coach in the NFL. But where do you see that he is going wrong in implying in making this team better? Like, you usually see certain things in the first year of a coach of like, well, this is different than before, or the Jets just cursed because they're a bad organization.
Aaron Glenn, who finished his career in Houston, has had a home there for a long time because he's a Houston native, played at A&M, and he played his best year with the Jets. He came from the Lions. He came in talking big about discipline and what he was going to do. And he sparred with reporters when they would ask him questions he didn't like. And now, after that loss to the Cowboys, I was reading a bunch about it, and he wasn't feisty at all. Now, Joe Gibbs started 0-5. Jimmy Johnson won 1 game his first year. Bill Walsh won 2. But the fact is, there's a saying up there, it's an SOJ. Same old Jets. And he brought it up before the media, said, we're not the same old Jets. Well, you know what? He's right. Rich Kotite and Adam Gase are viewed as 2 of the worst coaches, maybe the worst in Jets history. Neither started 0-5. But it's so unfair to judge him right now. But fact is, when you come in talking tough about all these things you're going to do, especially discipline, and as new sheriff in town, boy, when you don't deliver, you're going to have some egg on your face, and it's going to be 2 or 3 of them.
John, Baylor pulled it out against Kansas State. Your alma mater is 4-2 with an off week, and then at TCU, and then, of course, the stretch drive. And there were lots of rumbling about, man, they lose another home game, but they found a way, and they've won 8 of 9 Big 12 games, and it's almost as if people forget that, or did you?
No, I don't forget it. And I'll tell you all an interesting story because, Bryson Washington is hurt a lot. And he's good, and we know he could be great if he could stay healthy. I was at Texas A&M on Friday night for their annual alumni gala, alumni of the year, because Gary Kubiak was one of them, one of 12, and he invited me to come. So I went, had a great time. I'd never been in Reed Arena. I hadn't been there since G. Riley White when I watched Baylor play there. But it was a big deal. They played Mississippi State the next night. The campus was buzzing. And one of Gary's 3 tables, I sat with a couple who were from Franklin. And he had sold his business and moved back there. And I said, how in the world did you let Bryson Washington get away to Baylor? He said, I told Jimbo about him from the time he was a sophomore and they weren't interested. He wasn't a 5-star. And I said, well, thank you, Jimbo. And because he's playing very well. I said, Franklin got any more guys? He said, yeah, we got, wait a minute. If I tell you that, you're going to tell Baylor. And I said, well, Mike Elko, they don't have to be 5-stars, but we want to thank Jimbo for not being interested in Bryson Washington. Hopefully he can get healthy, stay healthy, and have another 1,000-yard season.
They've had some great running backs in that program at Franklin. Mark Fenton, the head coach. John, thank you so much for that story and everything else.
Guys, thank you very much. Second Bear.
As John McClain, Hall of Fame NFL columnist, but does a lot more than that. And appreciate the story about Franklin. They will hammer your, you know what, Garrett, running the football all the way every year, and won a couple state championships just recently. When we come back, we have Paul Catalina and the top 5, the spin of the wheel. We have quizzes and poll results and more. This is 365 Sports.
A lot of questions as to where people can find the best supplements.
And that's why we have the Swell Score, because we have created this platform where our team of researchers and doctors have come together to bring top-notch quality supplements and information.
We make sure that if we are recommending a product, that it hasn't been reviewed by the same company that is producing that product.
Now we have a resource that we can do that.
That's far.
So much forgiveness. Wait, did you say forgiveness like far, or forgiveness like forgiveness? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness.
I'm hearing far.
Forgiveness, like forgiveness. Forgiveness? Forgiveness.
I'm still hearing far, but whatever.
Introducing Stealth 2 with more carbon for more forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Just hit it.
Tailor-made golf.
Lily was falling 10 times a day, covered in bruises. She would run just straight into a pole, right? It was a disaster. She would fall down the stairs all the time. She just could not navigate her environment. 8 weeks after starting functional mushrooms, she was assessed developmental age for physical therapy and no longer required that service.
Thanks for joining us today. That's a wrap.
Peace, love, and mushrooms.
Peace, love, and mushrooms. Rashad, you got me.
GetUmbo.com.
All right.
Let's unbox the all-new Walking Pad X21. It is the hottest thing on the fitness market right now. Whew. I like it. I like it a lot. Well done, Walking Pad. So after using the Walking Pad, I absolutely loved it. For the price, I adore it. I highly recommend it.
Welcome, guys. You're at the 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company tasting room here. So we're located in basically central Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. Our 2 flagship whiskeys are our rye whiskey and our bourbon.
10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, Colorado.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5. I am Paul Catalina, and we're brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. We're going to talk QB battles this weekend. Suggested to me by our intrepid producer, Garrett Ross. There are, when you look at the schedule, there are 3 or 4 I could have made a case for that are intriguing or good or whatever. And then the games maybe weren't as important, but there are some interesting ones. Number 5, Drew Mestemaker at North Texas, Byron Brown at USF. These guys are both massive group of 6 studs that would be good at whatever school they're at. Drew Mestemaker is Eric Morris, who was on our show just a couple of days ago. His latest project in making a quarterback out of just kind of fairy dust and nothing, a safety at Vandergrift High School in Austin. Byron Brown, well told over his career of now he's healthy, he's a wrecking ball, he's athletic, he's fantastic. This is a huge game for both teams when it comes down to the American and the title and what's going to happen at the end of the year. It's Friday night. It's must-see TV if you're a college football fan for sure. Next up, number 4, Sam Leavitt versus Devin Dampier. Both Utah and Arizona State have a loss on their records. Arizona State not in the conference yet. Utah's is, as it came against Texas Tech. But Sam Leavitt is a guy who is maybe the steadiest hand in the Big 12. You know what you're going to get from Sam Leavitt week in and week out. He's a really steady Eddie quarterback. Devin Dampier, electric when he gets going. How will the Arizona State defense attack Utah, keep him in the well, and force him to throw? That's going to be the interesting thing of the week. And how does Sam Leavitt adjust to a very good Utah defense? Number 3, Bo Pribula versus Ty Simpson. Bo versus Ty. This is the most southern of all quarterback matchups this weekend. Oh, Bo, Ty, come see your mother. She aches. She aches. I mean, can't you see that? Am I not wrong?
I definitely feel it, yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like a rodeo, like yeehaw, Bo and Ty. Ty Simpson, after getting run over by Florida State, has been nothing but spectacular. He's really good just through his first interception on the season last week against Vanderbilt, but still just a really good leader. And I was surprised after watching Alabama and Florida State why people thought Ty Simpson was the problem. He was not. FSU's defense just kind of knew where he was going to go before he did and got in his grill a little bit. That's how you have to defend any quarterback. But Ty Simpson's been excellent. And right now I'd put him on the Heisman favorite list because he is a stud quarterback at Alabama. And Bo, when it comes to transfers, maybe one of the most effective ones so far in the country. And I think Penn State might be missing him a little bit because they did the thing last year where they would do the change of pace with Drew Aller and throw Bo in there. Well, they don't have him now. Missouri's rolling along, and Penn State has lost 2 in a row. That's all I've got to say about that one. Number 2, this one a bit of a stretch, given the fact that Barron Morton's offense will probably really hurt Jalen Daniels' defense. However, Jalen Daniels is a gamer enough and a stud quarterback enough to where I put him at number 2 because if Kansas is going to take a bite out of Texas Tech, it's going to be on the back of Jalen Daniels. This is why this is a really interesting matchup. Jalen Daniels is going to have to do a lot of things against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense statistically in the country right now in Texas Tech. So that's why this intrigues me. And look, Barron Morton has just been getting better each and every week. Sliced up Houston last week. He is really in his bag right now. And this one is very interesting. Tech's probably going to win this game, but if Kansas does anything, it's going to be because Jalen Daniels is locked in, and we've seen him be able to do that in the past. So if he does, don't be all that surprised. Number 1, Fernando Mendoza versus Dante Moore. Here are your top 2 Heisman quarterbacks right now. Mendoza's been absolutely electric this year for Indiana. He is a better player than Curtis Rourke. Now, Curtis Rourke really fit that system well for Curt Cignetti, and they got the most out of him. Now they got a better athlete in there running that system, and Indiana's been awesome. Dante Moore is a lesson in how you use the transfer portal. You don't always go just to get a starting job. You go because you're Dante Moore. You are a 5-star quarterback. You were not getting 5-star coaching at UCLA, and you went to a place where you were going to get 5-star coaching at Oregon. He sat behind Dylan Gabriel, a now NFL starting quarterback, for a year. He learned, and he has been nothing short of fantastic all year long, so much so that I saw a mock draft today that had him going number 1 overall. Now, we still have 6+ months to go before then, but both these guys are picture-perfect examples of how you use the portal. Look, Cal is always in kind of flux. Justin Wilcox is a really good coach, but they don't really know from the leadership standpoint of the university what kind of athletic school they want to be. So he took an opportunity to go to a place with Curt Cignetti that is fully behind football right now and rolling along in Indiana. Dante Moore did what I just told you about. He looked at his future and said, it's really not here at UCLA. I'm going to go sit at Oregon, and I'm going to make myself a better quarterback. And if you are a guy like Dante Moore, don't just go where they're going to kiss your ass the most. Go that's going to make you the best player and the best version of yourself. Dante Moore's done that for Dan Lanning at Oregon, and everybody else in the country is really upset that he did it. I'm sure they wish he had stayed at UCLA and taken all the lumps. But now we have this great quarterback matchup this weekend, a top 10 matchup. Oregon, should they win, will probably be number 1 in the country. Indiana will get in the top 3 or 4, if it is, just because they're Indiana, and that's just the rules of the weird college football society we live in. That's going to do it for the top 5. I'm Paul Catalina. The Carnival comes up next, brought to you by the crazy mind of Andrew Valade. This is 365 Sports.
All right, here's the wheel that we will spin.
There, you criticized the speed yesterday.
No, you took off the whatever they do, those NASCAR. What do they call those that slows it down?
The governor?
Yeah. All right, what is it, Paul?
Okay, it is zoo or aquarium.
Craig?
Zoo. Zoo, without a doubt. Love the smell of giraffe poop. No, almost second only to an aquarium. You can always, when you go into a house or a place that's got a fish tank going on right now. But no, I love the zoo. I have very fond memories growing up going to Caldwell Zoo in Tyler, which is a nice little small town zoo. And I've always enjoyed that experience. Aquariums, I've maybe been like once or twice. So maybe if I'd gone more often, I'd have a better answer. But it's pretty clearly zoo for me.
There's been a couple of Super Bowls where they had the media party at an aquarium. I think maybe New Orleans is one, and possibly either Miami or somewhere else. Atlanta. Okay.
Atlanta. Yeah.
But it was extraordinary. All right.
So which is yours?
What did
he doesn't
you
do either. He doesn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
I love the zoo, but let's do aquarium.
Okay.
It's whatever you want it to be.
What did you say?
Well, yeah,
this isn't a poll question.
Yeah.
Okay, what about it?
It's not a trivia question.
What's your favorite color?
What do you like?
What'd you say?
What do you like, a zoo or an aquarium?
I love the zoo.
Okay. I love animals. I love zoos, but I will go to a good aquarium anytime. I love a good aquarium. So zoos come in second, even though, like, if you put me in anywhere where there's a monkey, I'll lose my mind.
Yeah, I like seeing the zoo animals better. I like the lions and the big cats and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear them, and they have personalities, although some, like a dolphin or whatever, might have one in an aquarium. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoy an aquarium. I feel bad about SeaWorld, even though I enjoyed it when I was a kid.
That was fun to go to.
After I saw the Blackfish documentary.
Same, I don't like going to stuff like that anymore.
Yeah,
really.
No, that's messed up. It's really messed up. All right, let's see. Now we've got trivia questions.
This U.S. state is the only one without an NCAA Division I school in any sport.
Well, it's definitely not Hawaii. That's the first thing that stands out.
And it's not Rhode Island.
And not Rhode Island. So
Maine's D1 basketball, right?
Yeah. So I think it's got to be Alaska.
Alaska,
There we go.
Yeah. The basketball ability to Division I basketball really kind of opened up that door to being in Alaska. Only state, while the state offers Division II and club sports, it remains the only U.S. state without a top-tier college athletics program, making it unique among all 50 states.
All right, back to the top of the charts. I feel good.
NFL team is the only one to feature its logo on just one side of the helmet.
Oh, this is too easy, Andrew. Steelers.
Hey, keep these easy ones coming. Makes us look like geniuses when we get like 10 in a row. But we needed this, dude. After yesterday, we needed some.
There's the helmet,
right
one
answers.
with one patch and the other one with the other. Steel mark logo on only one side of the gold helmets. After a strong season, they kept the look permanently after 1962 was a test, creating one of the NFL's most iconic helmets.
Are you dyslexic? You're starting like reading the bottom of it and then jumped up to the top
read
of
it
it.
in order.
Am I the only one that noticed that?
Yeah,
It's like we're at the bottom and then we're at the top again while you're reading that. So okay, but
the Steelers one-sided logo. I just feel like it's boring to read it when people read it that way anyway.
I always thought it was just because they were trying to save some money.
No,
I never gave it much
back
thought.
in the 60s, I thought they're like, look, if we only order 50 of these instead of 100, we're gonna do it.
I never gave it much thought. I guess it's kind of cool and unique to them, but I appreciate these aren't questions where I feel like, man, those were really good answers. This is like beating an 0-10 team. But sometimes you got to beat the bad team to get your juju back or your mojo back. And so I think that's what we're doing today.
We're not going to brag like Arch Manning did. Like when you have
I'm not going to go stare Andrew down and try to punk him in front of the TV cameras after I ran him over. No, I'm not going to do all that and act like we're claiming that the swagger's back and all that. But it does kind of feel that way.
79% got it right. All right. And now the poll results from earlier today. I was interested in this one. Do you prefer the new double T redesign? I said I like the old look, and I'm mostly in the chat room. That's what everyone else agreed with too.
611 votes. And must have been up for like 2 hours, maybe. Yes. Sometimes simple is better, although not in this case.
No,
but
I just like it. I guarantee you that you put that up on social media, Texas Tech fans started voting too, and it probably wouldn't have mattered. I think that not many, at least now, like it like the old look.
I mean, some do, obviously. I think there's certain cases where I do like that logo, but I don't think it should replace the one they've had. I think the one that they've had is just so much more identifiable and unique. And so, I like the old look better as far as particularly that double T redesign. So I'm with the 72% there.
All right. Thank you very much. And one more to get to. Should Hulu release the unused North Carolina documentary footage? Like this Zapruder video or film.
I'm all for them doing it. They might have to do it how Ryan Reynolds released the Deadpool test footage, where he just did it on his own and reaped the consequences later. But man, I would think that there are some documentary producers that are packing up their stuff today in Chapel Hill that might have a couple things that they would like, or it might have been more boring than we realized.
I honestly think it's probably actually pretty boring. I mean, what is going to be like? I mean, what's she going to do to spice things up, or he going to do to spice things up outside of just the normal kind of like, I'd rather watch Kirby Smart do the real college football coaching and stuff than watch a dude who sucks at it who only we're following because he was good in a different element of the sport, and now he's got this new young I was out to begin with. It never interested me whatsoever, but I'd be all for just seeing what they actually had, because I do think it wouldn't be chaos. I think it'd actually be really damn boring, and they probably were just like, nobody's gonna watch this because they're all gonna think it's salacious, and there's nothing salacious about it. So
I think it's like watching grass grow. Or paint dry, that type of thing.
He's just going to be like, all right, we're going to key on the safety here on this play. I mean, that's what most of Bill Belichick's stuff is.
Probably that kind of jazz. I don't care.
Girl.
I don't care.
Yep. No, so there we are. Not a surprise. 84 said they want to see it, though.
And here's the other thing. I'm sure he closed the door and told them, there's going to be a documentary crew. They're going to ask you about Jordan. Don't say a bleeping word.
Yeah.
Or she pulled him aside and did that, like their TV interview where she suddenly interjected. But we've talked way too much about that.
He's not like just forgotten how to coach, but perhaps what made him successful along the way.
Well, he wasn't a successful college football head coach. He was a successful pro football head coach with a legendary all-time great quarterback. He has neither. He's not in the same environment, and he doesn't have that guy playing quarterback, much less a lot of the other guys that were surrounding that guy. So yeah, it's a fish out of water.
Yeah, I don't know if they got some stud quarterback that they have committed. I thought they did for 2026, but who knows if he'll be around to do that. All right, Garrett Ross, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Longer day for you than normal. Appreciate your time. Andrew Valet, great stuff. We'll shove all this up into everything, social media atmosphere. Tonight, 10:30 on the local CW, 365 Sports Tonight. And we appreciate our sponsors and those of you on Twitter and YouTube who watch us. We do appreciate you every second. For Craig and for Paul, I'm David Smoak. Thank you. Have a great night. This is 365 Sports.